Good evening, my name is Michael Muddett, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland Wetlands Commission for the town of Monroe. Today's date is October 26th. It is 7:04. The first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to introduce the members of the commission and staff that are present tonight. Starting all the way to the right of the table, we have Ross Mastoracco. To his left, we have Jim Stewart, who is a professional engineer and licensed land surveyor. To his left, we have Pete Oliva. To his left, we have Megan Hayden, who is a licensed attorney in the state of Connecticut, and Michael Muddett, I'm the chairman. To my left, we have Lois Spence, who's our secretary. To her left, we have Donna Shazinski, who is our Inland Wetlands and Land Use Coordinator. To her left is Scott Schatzline, our town engineer, who is also Land Use Director, Professional Engineer, and Inland Wetlands Agent. And recording tonight is Rebecca Wood. All right. Before we start, I'd like to read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and watercourses within the town of Monroe. In the normal course of our meetings, we will have public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have the applicant make a representation or presentation to the commission, during which and after the commission will be asking the applicant questions. The commission will then review with town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will then be opened up to the public for comment. I'll ask that all comments be made to the chair of the commission. After any and all comments, pro and opposition and in general nature, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. It is not necessary for the applicant to respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during the response. Please keep any comments, pro or con, specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve public hearings will follow a similar format, with the exception there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. Are there any changes to the agenda for tonight?
Yes. Under violations, we would have items IWV 2016-05 and IWV 2016-08. They're going to be moved to violation discussions, which is item 11 on the agenda. And there is the addition, under bond releases, reductions and reports, a request for a bond release for 57 Jockey Hollow.
Great, thank you. Okay, then we will move on to our next item, which is the minutes of September 28th, 2016. I'll entertain a motion or any changes.
I move to approve minutes of September 28th, is that?
Yep.
Okay.
With changes? With changes, Lois?
I'm trying to think if we have changes or not. Possible changes. We'll discuss it.
Okay, do I have a
I
second?
want to discuss it.
A second?
Do I have a second? Yeah. Okay, we have a second by Ross. Okay. Discussion.
On the bottom of page 2, I wanted to ask the commission if they remember this, the very last sentence on page 2, where James Cowan was talking about the wall and carrying seeds of invasive species to be caught by the remaining stone wall. Does anybody remember hearing that?
Yes,
You do?
I do.
Okay.
Because if they brought in dirt, they were hoping that the wall would filter them out from going into that wetlands.
Okay, then I have no further changes.
All right.
Yes.
On item, I guess it's 9,
What page?
6.
Thank you.
You've got me making the motion and abstaining, and the vote being 6-0-0. I don't believe I abstained on that one.
What item number is it?
1520?
1520, Blanket Meadow. Yeah, so we do. You did not abstain.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you abstain on any others? Just getting moved around?
Yeah, I abstained on the one before that.
Yes,
Okay,
I probably got carried over.
perfect. Okay, so that is there. Okay, great.
okay.
Perfect. Good catch. Okay, any other changes? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Carried, 2 abstentions. Motions are approved.
Okay, so Pete and
4-0-2.
Megan.
Yep. Pete and
Pete, Oliva, and Megan have abstained, and the vote is
4-0-2.
yes, 402.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is public participation. This period of time is open for the public to bring up any issues of inland wetlands related topics to the commission. Please avoid any public hearings that are currently on the agenda, as the time to talk about those will be at that, during that application. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to speak tonight of a general nature? Seeing none, we'll continue on. Next section is application hearing determinations. We have none tonight. The next section after that is subdivision report and recommendations to planning and zoning. This is IWC 2016-16, and we are going to combine this with the public hearing as part of the next regulated. Is the applicant here tonight? Please introduce yourself for the record.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Larry Edwards, professional engineer, 227 Stepney Road in Easton.
Okay, and just a note that this hearing opened last meeting, 9/28.
It will open before that, I believe.
Two bottom ones, I believe, yeah.
It was continued at 9/28 for no, because we had not. am I
You
right?
hadn't submitted, it was continued because they had not submitted the new information.
Right, but it was open
It was
last meeting.
open last time, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was open.
No, it was open previously.
Okay, just
Prior
continued
to
from last
that, it was
meeting.
continued.
That's
all.
fine.
I'm
Nope.
not trying to make a big deal about it.
Yeah, no, you're
I
correct.
wasn't here the last time.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, it opened at the previous meeting, 9/28 was continued, and now we are here.
Thank you.
Or 10/1 was continued. and now we're here.
Okay. Basically, what we have done since I was here last, which was 2 meetings ago, we have presented a set of changes to the staff, with that submission, and the staff, specifically Scott, has reviewed those and got, we had met and discussed them in detail, but then submitted revised plans, and he has provided us with his comments as of earlier today, but I think in essence, everything that we had, for the most part, has been addressed. I'm just going to go down through some of the highlights of his comments that are still maybe outstanding. The first item is number 3, which is just something that's going to go on into the subdivision application process, I believe, and it's brought up at the previous hearing. Number 4, we submitted a wetlands assessment report, and in that report, there was a number of recommendations by our soil scientists, and a number of those are items which we have either possible or have not addressed because we can't address them for various reasons. I'm just going to go down through them very quickly. It was recommended we use rain gardens for the house leaders. We have proposed infiltrators, in-ground infiltrators, instead of the rain gardens. It's our opinion that they are a more long-term solution to the problem, because rain gardens do tend to disappear when people don't understand exactly what they are. So it's been our practice. The treatment that would be taking place for the runoff of the driveway is going into the central storm detention facility, stormwater management facility. So that is being treated there. She indicated that to use vegetated swales along both sides of the roadway. That is not allowed by your regulations, not your regulations, but the town regulations in terms of construction of road and how the storm drainage is handled. So again, our treatment, which we meet all the stormwater management regulations, is being done in the central stormwater facility, which is located down at the corner of the project. Marking the edge of the wetlands, we have, as part of our revisions, shown a delineated line as marked both by markers and also with larger trees that will delineate that limit for the homeowner. And this really applies to lot number 3 only. And as you can see on the plan, we are basically, we've got a series of trees and markers along the edge of, I think it's 5 feet back from the edge of the actual wetland. So, you know, we have addressed that issue. And the final one, I think, on this is the issue of plantings within the wetlands. In this application submission, we did not include any proposed plantings within the wetlands, but in talking to Scott today, he felt that we should provide a plan for some sort of wetlands plantings. I was unable to get a hold of our wetlands soil scientist, but what I did do is prepare a plan for tonight that detailed, and again, I'm not trying to say that I'm an expert in, can I pass these out or?
Sure.
In the workings of the wetlands, but her report recommended a certain number of species, or certain type of species to use, so what I did is took that and showed them on this plan, and with a number of units or plants that we're proposing, and I think it's nothing else, it's a starting point that maybe whether Scott and I can discuss it hopefully after the hearing closed, the commission can make recommendations on more plants, but she had basically recommended a certain, basically red maple trees and a number of different types of shrubs that were planted in there to provide a start of, you know, regenerating that wetland back into what is similar to it next on the other side of the stone wall. So, as I said, I don't claim to be an expert in it, but I just took her information and tried to put it onto a plan that we could all look at tonight and at least have something that's a starting point, if the commission would agree. And going on to the rest of the item number 5, which is on the top of page 2, both 5 and 6. We did provide that information, Scott. We provided, in that last submission, we provided the yellow copies, and we also provided the signed soils report. So if you check the file, you should have it.
Yeah, we could work that out. I looked in the file, I couldn't find it.
I had a deep one. In
The
my-
what?
I had a deep one in my, I had a
You had
deep-
the yellow form?
Yeah,
Okay, so it must have
so I
got,
got it.
you got it
I
instead
don't
of
have
the
it with
file.
me, I'd have to bring
Right.
it back to you.
Yeah, so,
Yes, so we did provide it.
Yep.
and those are housekeeping.
Yeah, that's housekeeping stuff.
We all have.
Oh, we all got one? All right, do
Well, that's great. You
That's
all
what
have
we-
yellow
Everybody's got one
copy,
but Scott.
but we don't have it in our,
Are you sure?
well, look
Okay,
through.
I'll look, okay.
I didn't want to bring up this I think going to technical items, number 1, he indicates that I think you're going to do as a housekeeping issue of issuing a note to the Planning and Zoning Commission to address number 1 in the technical issues. The rest of them all the way down are, have been addressed except for number 6, which he would like us to put the construction fill limits, which we show, we actually show the contours, but, you know, in terms of showing the actual limits of the building, and we would have to take care of that, and hopefully that can be done administratively. And likewise, I think we're down to page 3, number 10. the invert of the new pipe going out of the structure. We obviously, we must not be included in the plan, and we'll address that, and we'll look at that administrative issue. I think that's, got one
How
more.
about number 10H? You skipped over that one.
Oh, okay, you didn't highlight this, okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you're right.
Yeah, that again is just one page of the report that I understood what he wanted, but we can provide that. And, it's one page of the total engineering report. And we get down to subdivision referral. I think he wants the notes that are on sheet SD1 to be included in the subdivision sheet as well. And I think that's it. I think everything else we've addressed. Scott and I spent not a couple hours, but an hour going over them before we made the changes, and I think we hopefully completed everything required.
So one quick question on the planting plan, just looking at that now. The 4 to 6 inch red maples.
Did I say each?
No, well, sorry, foot, I'm sorry, there's Dick, is the one tick, sorry. It says 6 plants, but if I'm reading the iconography right, there's 12. Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay, cool, so it is 12.
Yes, 12. Yeah.
That's total within that entire area?
And I tried to keep them back away from the edge of the, because you have a canopy that comes over that. And my feeling is I didn't want to go planting trees under trees. So I tried to keep them up more toward the upland side of it than against the boundary.
Now, you would say that area right now is pretty sparse?
It's an open field. It's basically what it is. It's been
Yeah.
pastured up until last year.
So
It's marked
it needs the
sparse.
plants, yeah, okay.
Oh, it definitely needs the plan. I don't know, from the depiction, it looks a little sparse to me. I don't know,
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to picture a red maple.
Ross is sitting there going,
I was
no,
talking about-
oh, okay. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. Since it is a completely devoid, it's basically devoid of
field.
anything but grass, of meadow grass, right, at the moment?
Yeah. And that is going to be your predominant species until,
Right, until you take
until it
hold.
becomes, but in the same sense, it is stable, it isn't a factor of trying to make sure that there isn't any deterioration of the wetlands. We're just trying to fill it enough to encourage the regeneration of the wetlands. So, and again, I put numbers in, I would hope that's something we could go through this hearing and maybe address that at an administrative level with staff. Specifically as well. And if you want to increase them or increase the variety, I don't have a problem with it. And I don't think my client does.
Quick question, so a red maple tree, when it gets to, adequate age, how big would you say
They can get to be,
Kind
Could
of
be.
a ratty tree,
yeah. But I would say they can get to be, I had them, the house I used to live in Easton, that's what we had because it was a very wet area.
Red maple swamp.
And I would say they're probably 40 feet
Yeah.
spread.
Okay,
But
so-
the thing is, in a swamp, you don't have 6 in a half an acre parcel, you've got 6 in a
No,
50-foot
12.
diameter
12.
parcel.
It's 12.
12, okay, I'm sorry, I'm 12. But still, I mean, judging by my own backyard, there's a red maple every 6 feet.
But in the same sense,
And,
yeah,
and I've got
I
a
would
swamp.
agree, but if you're looking at what's gonna be a survival rate of those, it depends what you want. If you want it to turn into those size of maple trees everywhere, then that's what you're gonna, because don't forget, the maple tree, if you've got a yard, that tree, every spring, you have to go out and pick the little ones out
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
they
But that doesn't- I don't know what
reseed
age
very, very easily.
I don't know what age they start that, though. do
They started early because,
Really?
as I said, that's the only great thing about them. They do grow fast. You can cut the stump off and they'll come back
They come
5 or
back,
6
yeah.
times over.
Mhm.
So, again, it's not a big issue in terms of our application. And,
Mhm.
if you want to put more in, then we would be.
I would just like to see it beefed up a bit, especially since when they're this sparse, also it makes it easier for the deer to go, oh, there's another one. And
I don't know, do you have any?
Well, I don't know if that's ever gonna,
Well, no.
you know, having twice as many, you're just gonna have twice as many deer that are gonna be grazing on it.
Do you have a deer plan
A deer plan.
to protect them from deer while they are in their infancy?
I think the concept is that specifically the shrubs that are on this list are supposed to be deer resistant as much as they can be. Because I went on after I looked at this list and went on to these New England plantings, I wanted to find the sizes and so forth. And these are listed as being resistant. Now, nothing is beyond resistant, because, you know, deer will take most anything if they get hungry.
This is true.
Minus some of the invasives.
Yeah,
Those
right.
they- Those they
won't
leave
eat
alone.
those.
They won't eat those.
Well, that's why.
That's why they're
That's why we have
invasives,
so many
yeah.
of them, yes.
So between the plants, is there any, like, we're just leaving the grass, meadow grass that's there now, or are we planning to see like a wetlands mix or anything like that?
You know, I would question whether, the only way you're gonna get a wetlands mix to take is gonna be either go and plow it up or harrow it up. And I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I
the best
don't
use of
necessarily
stone.
want to do that either.
No, but I don't think just broadcasting the wetlands seed is gonna be very effective.
It will just stay on top of the meadow
Yeah.
grass, yeah.
Oh, I did not walk this area, but did you? Is it particularly wet, or is it more like the rest of the pasture?
It's more like the rest of the pasture. It's not a distinguishing change in vegetation from one
That's
to
interesting.
the other.
Because I'm guessing, because, I mean, the farm wall's on the other side, so this was farmed for years.
Yeah, that's
And-
true.
And with
That's true.
with the soils on the site being as gravelly as they are, you know, I would imagine it probably comes up during the storm, but then it goes down very quickly, and as soon as you get you know, into May, it's gonna be bone dry.
Would it be possible to ask that perhaps a stone wall be constructed when you run into stones during moving the dirt around, you're filling and excavating, that some of the rocks could be put and kind of added to that to make it a little bit more of a boundary?
Yeah, because we've done boulder walls, or we call them boulder walls.
That's
You know, if you
that's
get
basically
boulders
what I
and you
mean.
kind of space them with
Mhm.
the planting
Yep.
along it, yeah.
That's just a little bit more of a permanent, since it was a wetland once, it would be nice to really delineate it as being such.
I think
So,
that would be acceptable.
like the marker out in the middle of a field.
As long as it isn't gonna be a formal stone.
No, no, no,
Nothing
no, I don't like
Nothing
that.
like a farm.
I don't like
a
anything
farm.
formal anyway.
So you're suggesting that well, what I was gonna suggest, by the way, is, one of the things that's kind of up in the air is these wetland markers, because we don't have the benefit of knowing specifically what they're gonna propose for the lot development. So I was gonna suggest that they move them uphill a little bit more a little closer to where the limit of the grading is gonna be. Show you. You got them right along the wetland line, and what I'm suggesting is,
They're like 10 feet out, right?
No, 5.
5 feet.
the grading comes down, this is the proposed contours down here, like, these markers could probably be moved up to here somewhere.
To the FEMA line?
I don't know, and I was gonna suggest that they just be depicted there with a note that says that they'll be adjusted during the time when this comes in for the application for the house construction. And if, depending upon what they propose for the house construction, it could go closer to the wetlands again or further back this way to, you know, I would assume it's not gonna change very much though.
No, I don't think it's gonna change much, but in the same respect, Scott, I understand the commission wants to preserve the wetlands, and in this particular case, you know, obviously this lot is gonna have very limited backyard, so I
It's
think.
got a lot of
that-
side yard, though.
Yeah,
I mean, you
but
know,
I think the more you push it up, the more likely you're gonna be that they're gonna push back, if you understand what I mean. You know, I think here they still have a relatively usable area. These soils are not gonna be soils that are gonna generate large amounts of runoff, where you're gonna have situations that the lawn is gonna run off into the wetlands as much as you would have, you know, in a lot of sites. And, you know, I think you're better off keeping it a more realistic setback from the wetlands and leaving it there and reinforcing it if, you know, you want with the boulders or whatever, than trying to push it farther up the hill and then be in a situation where first person who moves in there is gonna say, well, I wanna push it, whatever they're gonna do. But it still leaves some area to put a swing set up and so forth. You push it up much more, you're not gonna have any room to do that.
I assume these lots are gonna go up for sale right away after the
Well,
subdivision is completed.
Yes and no. I mean, obviously the economy is a big part of that. And as everybody knows, there isn't many houses being built out there right now. So how soon this gets done is up in the air right now.
So not to jump around though, but to jump back, how does the commission feel about the 20, the 20 general wetlands plants and the 12 red maples? Do we feel that is adequate, or do we feel that one or both of those need to increase in density?
I think they got enough room to spread out a bit. The worst thing is you put too much in and then they have no room, yeah.
Well, we're talking about an area that's almost a half an acre.
Yeah, but you're also talking about 32 plants.
Right?
I know, but 32 plants in a half an acre is not very much. I mean, Ross knows. I would defer to him, so,
If I burn, get very large. Clethorallifolia, is that the spice bush? I can't
I
remember.
believe it's called, it's like,
I mean, those things get 8 feet wide.
and they grow relatively fast.
They do. They're weedy plants.
And
So,
you're,
but-
and you're also gonna give, I don't cut you off, but
that's,
by leaving some space in there, you're gonna allow what's in the wetland to move out versus if you try to plant it solid, then you're gonna be pushing back into the wetland. You're not gonna get the native stuff to come back into the meadow. That's why I said I tried to keep them away from the tree line edge, because I think, that's gonna seed itself, very quickly over time.
would be good. Well, I'll go along with whatever Ross recommends.
I think it's
Adequate.
adequate.
Okay, and then to Lois's point, now were we talking about putting the rocks from the site development in the wetlands?
No,
Or on the
no,
border
no,
of the
no, on the
wetlands?
border of the
Yeah,
wetlands,
no,
like
no,
in trees, or even inside of that a little bit. I mean, to Scott's point, I
I
agree with
understand.
him. We try to stay further than 5 feet away from the wetlands.
And I
So-
would have a problem if the commission wanted to move it to 8 feet but I just don't want to see it move 30 feet up the hill, because I think it's just gonna be.
No, I mean, I was thinking more, when I originally said 10, that's where
Yeah,
I thought it
how
was.
about we move, in fact, the trees also? The
If
trees
you
and
want, if you
the
want to move it to 10,
Wall-to-wall to
I
10
wouldn't have a
feet.
problem with that.
I mean, 10 feet is still a little bit on the slim side, but it's, a
I
decent
think
compromise
that's
perhaps.
reasonable. I just don't want to see it go, up and then have to move back.
Yep.
10 feet. I did have another question. Let's see if I can just find it now. On the notes that you have on, I think it's SD1, I'm not sure. Anyway, you were discussing the fact that Lot 3 was the only lot that was going to have to come back to wetlands for site development.
No, 2
but-
lots would have to.
On the plan, it says only one, only 3. But I agree with you too, I think needs to come back also, because our regulations say that if you have upland review area on your
Yeah.
site, you need to bring it to wetlands.
Even if it doesn't go into it, it's still,
Even if there's
it's
no
still
wetlands.
regulated area on the
Then
property.
I stand corrected.
Just to make sure that it's correct on the notes, that's all.
Can we just get clarification, if they come in for the building permit and they have wetlands or even upland review area on their site,
Mhm.
if they're not proposing any activity in that, then it doesn't come before you. However, if it's a subdivision like this, and there is a wetland and an upland review area that they are showing that they do not need to go into, it still must come before the commission. But the subsequent plot plans, building permits, they don't come before you unless they have proposed regulated activity.
So that means that 3 of the 4 need to come.
So, according to their
Kind of lost me in
plan,
that whole
yeah,
statement
the
there.
3, where's the 100-foot on this lot here? On
It's
4?
right there.
Is this
Yeah,
it
you
right
got
here?
it. Mhm.
Okay, so this lot, those, yeah, according to their plan, would not have to come, unless they change it. And then this lot here, which is lot, it's
Lot 3 has to
3,
come
that definitely
regardless.
has to come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Lot 2 doesn't, as
Lot-
long as they keep it where it is now?
That's,
Is that
well,
what you're
lot
saying?
two, lot 2, this development down in here, this grading and this excavation, this is for the floodplain compensatory
Right.
Area, and that is going to be done as part of the subdivision construction, correct?
So after that.
So this gets approved with the subdivision, bonded with the subdivision, and that, and so that when they come in for this building permit, as long as they are adhering to this this contour right here, and not changing that, then that they would not have to come before you. 'Cause it
Is
would-
there any possibility that that flood storage mitigation area is going to become a wetland because because it's being excavated? And it's very close to the wetland?
It's a very good question.
Because if it becomes a wetland, that changes the whole URA.
Actually, that's a
I
good
can't
point.
tell by contours, but
You're gonna go through
There's only a foot or so of material.
yeah, you're gonna go through the Lomar, so it'll become floodplain. Yeah, if you excavate down to the water table, then
Yeah,
it will.
then it would become a wetland, but otherwise, it's gonna be floodplain, but it's not it's not gonna be a wetland. Because we are gonna drain it out, it's gonna make sure that it drains.
Right, so, but she's got a good point, that if you excavate it down low enough,
so maybe that has to be reviewed when the site is proposed to be developed. At that point, we should have a soil scientist look at it and see if it is becoming a wetland, in which case it changes the URA.
But it wouldn't become a wetland because it's based on soil type. So if
That's
we
not
ended up
gonna
going in there and excavating it and refilling, putting topsoil back and
Yeah, but
landscaping it, there would be no sign of a.
no, what she's talking about is, and that's one of the few ways that wetlands get created,
Mhm.
when people excavate on their property. If you excavate down to the water table,
Exactly. If
Then
you get into
this-
the water table itself.
or into the mottling or whatever,
Yeah.
what happens is that soil is essentially wetland soil. And what happens is you uncover it. So, yeah, it is possible that when you excavate that, that will become a classified wetland. Now, I don't know if you want to consider it as a wetland that you then have to have lot 2 come back in to get regulated. Is that
Well,
what you're saying?
I'm just wondering. I mean, I don't know.
Because it is something that they're kind of creating, and they're doing that through this
Well,
approval
the
process.
the statutes say though, if the wetland, it doesn't matter whether it's man-made or natural, it still is a wetland. And it has to be treated as such.
Well, I mean, the way we can handle that is when lot 2 comes in for a building permit, we could have a soils report. We get a soils report, and if the report says that that is wetlands, then if it has regulated
Right.
activity, which according to this plan, it would not.
Right.
Yeah, but that's.
Although it
100%
would have upland
Yeah.
review area, so you're right.
But if you just look at the contours, you look at where
That's
your
what I'm trying to
wetlands are.
find.
Yeah,
on
okay,
the
so let's
property.
do that.
What's the
They're down
contour?
really at elevation 34, 434 is really where the wetlands are. You can see that's pretty much.
434, yeah.
434.
Or even a little lower.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, the high point is 434.
Okay, so
And if
let's,
you go up to that,
let's
our
go-
bottom of our excavation could be 438. We're maintaining the bottom. of
yeah,
438.
okay. So it's unlikely.
Yes, it is, I think it's very unlikely, but the only way that it would be if they didn't drain it out and over time,
The soil settled.
soil settled. And
Well, that would-
But that's not gonna be something that's gonna be determined
Right.
until it sits there
1,000
for a long time.
That's gonna take a while.
They'll be the next commission.
Yeah, I think it'll be more than
Oh, I don't know, the way I'm going.
especially with the type of soils on this site, with the gravel and sand soils you have,
It's not
The
like that.
chances that it's gonna pond there and stay is not gonna be very likely.
Okay. My next question is that it says you're planning on finishing it with topsoil and seeding and mulching. What are you seeding with?
Type, seed type? It would just be whether it be a farm seed or a conservation.
Meadow mix, conservation
Yeah,
mix,
that's-
perhaps?
yeah, if you
Okay,
wanna
well,
say
is
that,
that what
sure,
you're
sure,
proposing?
that would
Because I
be-
just want to, and that is going to be not maintained, am I correct?
That's correct.
And is that going to be delineated somehow, that it has to be in that form? To keep it what it's, because the
Well, as
meaning,
part of the subdivision, it's bonded, just what Scott said, so basically that is, but it's within the 100-foot regulated area, so it's no different than any other property that you have that's within the 100-foot review area.
but if the client that buys the house does not propose to go beyond, beyond what's on this plan, he wouldn't have to come to us. He may think that that's
But
part
that's no
of,
different than any other subdivision lot that you
except
have.
that this is being created for flood storage.
Yeah, but the thing is, that activity is taking place by the developer, not by the homeowner.
What?
So that's gonna be done and finished before the homeowner is gonna be into the lot.
Why don't we do this? That's the wetland, the line here that's the
Regulated area.
100-foot line
Yeah.
from the wetlands.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, it kind of matches the area that you're gonna be digging out and doing that.
Now you're getting me busy.
Why don't you just take,
Zoom out a little bit.
why don't you just
Scott.
take these, instead, why don't you take these markers, and the marker's gonna be here, or this, and then bring the markers, instead of putting that marker there, bring the markers this way, and then run the markers around the Toa slope here. So you put a marker here, a marker there, because that's regulated wetland area. That way they can develop their lot, they're gonna have their yard, and there's gonna be markers here. This is gonna be meadow mix, and it's gonna go, and be undisturbed. And you can-
I have a problem with that, because now you're theoretically putting your regular markers on, then you do have the
Review area.
setback area that you have.
Actually, they do that. What we do is,
With the setback?
well, it's an upland review area, and what they do is the markers don't say wetlands, they say regulated area. And the reason for that is typically what they do, just like down here, the markers are going in at the limit of the proposed maintenance area.
Disturbance,
So you're gonna have a 10-foot dimension between the wetland and where the markers go in. The markers are telling the people, that's the limit of where you have your yard, you have to stop there. And that's what I'm saying, it serves the same purpose over here, so.
I think, again, this is from my personal point of view. I think if you're doing that, you're putting it everywhere, they're gonna be less effective, because people are gonna, the person comes in there, they're gonna see that, and they're gonna say, well, why can't I go over there? And it's just an open field, why can't I go there? You know, say he wants to go out and mow it and have his kids play baseball out there. He's gonna be tempted to do that, and all of a sudden, I think what I'm trying to get at is the meaning of your markers is gonna become less meaningful the more you put. And this is just my own personal opinion. Because you could go all the way around the whole thing at your setback lines, and people are gonna be more likely to ignore them if they're sitting there saying, well, that's not wetlands over there, why can't I go there? And you have these, I think you're gonna find they're gonna disappear very quickly. But I have no problem if you wanna do it, Scott, but I personally don't think it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be counterproductive.
All right, so we're saying that could be a deliberation item.
Yeah, do what you want, I'm not, that's your decision.
You can deliberate on that.
Because that would be, to me, that would just invite, like you said, mowing the area and put a swing set up there, and next thing you know, that's a little too low over there, I think I'll fill it up, and now we're losing our storage. And if you don't, if there's markers out there, oh, this is an area that's a little bit more special, I have to be careful. That, it's just a reminder to the homeowner that this is, what that is. Is that going to be on the plan, that is to remain as untouched Is it gonna be on the deed or
It's-
whatever it is that
Again, what
they
I'm
do
trying to get
legal-wise?
to is every piece of property that every subdivision you have, that's no different than any other lot on this subdivision or anything else that has area within that 100-foot review area.
Except that this is floodplain, so it is a little different. And we're losing floodplain, so you're adding floodplain, which is what we're supposed to be doing. So we want to maintain that and make sure it doesn't ever disappear.
Again, I don't have a problem with
So-
it. I just don't agree with you. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's a regulated area. Not only is it regulated by,
Us, but it's
by
regulated by FEMA.
wetlands, it's gonna be regulated through FEMA as well.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if we saved the homeowner some grief before he
No, no,
realized that, you know,
As I
that he
said,
did something wrong and all of a
this is
sudden
worth
it's in trouble
arguing
with
about,
FEMA?
because, if you
Well-
want them, they're simple enough to put up. It doesn't.
He's saying one way or another, so you guys can work that out in your.
Yeah,
Okay.
not a big deal.
Can you do boulders or plants or something like that along the border?
To be honest, I think the markers are better than that, because the plants are just gonna be, well, that plant's there.
And the nice thing about this is that there's a slope there, it's at the bottom of the slope. I mean, that's a 2-foot change in how many feet there, looks like about 10, right?
Yeah, it's a decent slope.
So, yeah, I mean, you could make it a little steeper, the steeper you make the slope, then the more chance of erosion and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So there's a bit of a slope there, and so there's gonna be that deterrent, and then you have, if you decide you want markers, you got markers along there as well. But, yeah, and beyond that, it becomes an enforcement issue, as
Right,
always.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
a
know,
limit to
I'm
what
trying
you
to
can do.
avoid those.
Okay, then any other questions?
Do we have a choice between spruce or pine trees for that border along the edge?
Yep. Or if you have some other variety that you want.
I think spruce would be a great
Spruce.
idea.
I think spruce is better than
Higher
pine. The only thing with the pine grow quicker. But they also bush out, and I think they're gonna be more of a maintenance problem for
When
you.
you say
Shorter
pine,
lived,
do you
too.
mean white pine?
Well, that's generally the.
Yeah, I'll tell you, planning and
planning
zoning
zone
will
doesn't
mix that
say, yeah.
right away. so.
That I don't follow. Spruce, I would say, I
Spruce is
personally would
better
go with the spruce.
choice.
Me too.
They're a much nicer looking tree too. They grow nice and.
Higher quality, longer lived.
Okay. I don't think I have any more questions, that was it.
Anybody else down there? Okay. Anything else the applicant would like to, anything else the office would like to ask or comment on?
The bond recommendation is 20, where did my recommendation go?
It's in there.
28,000, right?
20-something thousand.
I thought it was 26.
Page 3.
26. Page
26.
Oh, there it is, it's up above, 26, usually down below.
Okay. See above. Okay, anyway. Okay, then we will go ahead and open this up for public comment. Do you want to add the exhibits before we go to that? Looks like there's only a couple new
Sure.
ones.
Okay. Okay, that one we can keep that. Let's see. And 28. I think I read this one, but I'm gonna read it anyway. Exhibit number 4 was town engineer comments on the bond sheet. That was document dated September 28th. Exhibit number 5 is the stormwater management report by Larry Edwards. Exhibit number 6 was the soils report by C. Rabinowitz. Exhibit number 7 was a wetland assessment by C. Rabinowitz. Exhibit 8 was a nine-page plan set, Acorn Lakard subdivision by J. Edwards Associates. Exhibit number 9 was updated engineering comments by Scott. Exhibit number 10 was the map planting plan submitted by J. Edwards Associates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody from the public who'd like to make a comment in support of this application? Does anybody like to make a comment in opposition of this application? Anybody who'd like to make a comment or question about this application in general? Seeing none, is there any other questions or comments from the commission? Any closing remarks from the applicant? Nope. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close this public hearing. Okay. moving along on our agenda, as we said, we combined the public hearing portion with the subdivision report. So we will move to section 5, our violations. The first violation on the agenda tonight is IWV 2014-01, 4 Maple Drive. This is a first review. Is that property owner? Please come forward if you would like to introduce yourself for the record, and then I'll walk us through the process.
Good evening, my name is Pat O'Keefe, and I'm representing the property owners, Robert and Maureen, Eagle, parents.
Great, thank you very much. So, these are the informal hearings. Thank you for coming. Basically, very welcome.
So you're representing both 4 and 8? Is that what
No.
Oh, just 4.
Just for,
Okay.
so with these, typically what we do is we have Scott, our town engineer and wetlands agent, walk through us real quickly what the file says. Then basically what we need is any background information on what was where, what was done when, kind of things. Just ideas of what's been happening with the property. Then the commission will either decide to come visit the site, ask to come visit the site. We can set up times to meet with you or the property owners to walk the sites. And then we deliberate on it and basically decide whether we're going to, the plan of action of how to take care of the violation. But this is a good part because this is working together on it. So we'll work together and get this done. So, Scott, you want to start with the
Yeah, so
summary?
what happened was, we went over this report with or I went over this report with the commission and they requested or advised that I reissue a notice of violation, so that's how that came about. I believe you got a copy of this file, so you have what I'm gonna show the commission now.
Correct.
And basically what this is giving you contact information. Description of the violation is unpermitted storage structures and structures within a regulated upland review area, unapproved distribution of bituminous millings within a regulated area, and the aforementioned activity includes placement of retaining wall stones within the same upland review area. We have a sketch, kind of busy, but it shows the property, the building out in front, shows the garage and back. There was do I have the wrong one here?
No, I think that's number 4.
Yeah, that's the right one. There was a parking lot that was approved and put in here, so that was sanctioned in. What we're talking about is this area back in here that has now been filled with millings, regraded and filled with millings, and we're not sure from how close they come to this wetland here, so without additional information, not quite sure of that. Here's a plan showing what approved wetland remediation that happened, plantings that were put in along the wetland on both sides, parking lot that was proposed. Mostly, we are talking about this large area back here. Here's a bunch of photos of that. Here's the building, here's the parking lot, here's the large area of millings that was installed. You can see trucks and things that were back there at that time. I'm not sure what's there now. But there are a couple different views. They have this driveway that was built, this paved driveway. If you recall, I believe it was John Kimball got an approval to put this paved crossing in down here, but there were never any approvals to carry that forward. Well, this, you can see the worn path. This is being used as a driveway. Another shot here, good shot. You can see this is the wetland, the brook area. I'm not sure how close this comes. Here are the 2 sheds or structures that were put in as storage. Those don't have permits. So that's what we're doing with just a bunch of more photos here. You can see even a closer view of what's going on.
Okay.
This is really prior to, there was millings put in here more. This is when there was just gravel and grass. And I think that was is basically, let me see if there's some more photos. Yeah. All right, so here's the property looking from that service road that Kimball put in, from the rear of the property, the mill, you can see the millings going in, the piles put there before they were knocked down and spread. This is, where am I? The front of the property. The driveway goes in that way. That's not really relevant for you guys. So, they like to take pictures.
They love to
of
take
the-
pictures, they
of
do.
This is going in from the backyard, there's some rocks, and it drops right off to the wetland area. Here are the two sheds I talked about, large rocks put along the regulated area here. That's a picture of.
Nice shades.
Didn't realize my head was shining like that in the sun.
Glowing down.
And here's the large process stone area, some of the stuff
Okay.
that was there. and
All right.
so
Thanks,
I think
Scott.
you get the idea.
Yep. Okay, so anything you'd like to present as testimony or not testimony?
Okay, well, I guess we'll take it one by one.
Yep,
First, all of the sheds have been removed. I took this, you want to play this, you can pass it down if you like.
yeah, if you could send those to the office, we could pass it around real quick, but if you could just send them to the office too.
Touch that, and it should, just basically a 360 of that area.
I gotcha.
Okay?
Okay, let me just pass it that way and then pass it the other way.
This is my card. If you could email me, my email's on there. Email me the photographs
You just
and
add
any
it.
documentation that you are submitting or discussing tonight so that we
Okay.
can add it to the file.
Okay.
Thank
Oh,
you.
I see, there's a video.
Oh. Okay, so the sheds that we were talking about, kind of at the finger of that wetland, those have been removed?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And so, the millings, are those relatively new? It looks like the piles were still there when we were visiting.
No, I believe that was, I don't know if you have dates on those photos, but I believe that's probably a good 6 years or so ago.
Okay.
I thought I saw OSHA up on that picture.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. But the millings are still there.
2014.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, the question was whether there were piles.
When they were there.
Oh, yeah, the piles were knocked down and it was spread out.
So it was around
He
08
was
that the
asking
piles,
the
yeah.
timeframe, like when that was.
I didn't think it was that long ago, but boy, time does go by
Time,
fast.
yeah, time is moving really quick.
So I'm having trouble getting that, such a skinny little line there.
13?
13, October 2013,
Okay.
3 years.
Okay.
Oh, this says, and then there was October of 2014.
Okay.
Who was that? So keep talking, I'll find that one that had the piles. Not that it, I don't think
I don't
it's
think
all
it really
that.
matters.
It's really
So you're
not.
probably
Yeah, it
either
doesn't matter.
14 or 13.
Yeah,
There it
there's
is.
the piles there. And it's,
13. There you go.
2013.
It blends in together after
Okay. Now, is there any additional work you guys are looking to do to the property, or is it?
Well, when we bought this piece of property, there were three main objectives. One was to increase our parking space, which you saw.
The application came in for,
that,
yep.
and, that went through. The other was to get access to Victoria Drive, specifically so when we were entering, or more importantly exiting the property, our employees had a traffic light
Okay.
up on Route 25.
Rather than trying to drop right off.
Well, the front of our building is 4 Maple Drive. Before we acquired this property, that was our only entrance. For those of you who are familiar with Maple Drive, Maple Drive drops down off of Route 25. For folks nicely banked turn, which makes it easy to move around that corner rather quickly. For those who are coming up Maple Drive to get onto Route 25, whether it's north or south, it's a very difficult intersection.
Blind corner, yeah.
It's a blind corner, it's a, oh, thank you. I'll pick that up in a bit. Just, it's a hazard. So our thought was to get access to the traffic light that was up on the top of Victoria Drive. The first year or two that we were using this lot, during the winter time, it became very difficult to pass through. You know, the dirt would turn to mud, the mud would freeze and thaw and all of that kind of stuff. And we had pretty frequent conditions where our employees were now getting stuck in our safer exit. So put some of this material down. My inspiration for that was some of the walking trails around Great Hollow and the Housatonic Rail Trail. It looked like it was the same type of material. And it did a pretty nice job of creating a surface as well as a little bit of weed control.
So you are looking to maintain that path
Yeah,
out to other
it
property?
really has proven to be a much safer way for our folks to get in and out.
Okay.
And, you know, with the proposed commercial activities in that area, I suspect it's only gonna get worse on 25. And so having a traffic light is a very helpful thing.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission of the property owner?
How many employees do you have that park there on a daily basis?
20.
20. So technically you need 25 or 30 spaces or whatever. I'm just trying to figure out how many is actually needed as opposed to how much land area was filled with the millings.
Yeah, now the third thing that was in there was the establishment of a retaining wall.
Oh, yes. Sorry,
Just to
thank you.
give you a little background, as much as I know, this piece of property at one time belonged to that larger piece of property that I guess was a summer camp. There actually was a home built on this property up in the higher areas there, and it had a driveway that went out to Route 25. That house was still standing when we first moved in to 4 Maple Drive. That was back in 1981. You actually see on one of the slides that Scott had put up there, a couple of wetlands which had gotten separated, and that separation was caused by the driveway that had gone up to Route 25. The wall, which is visible in some of these photos, was actually part of that house when it was built. Now, just so you're clear, that where that fellow's boots are, that is part of our parking lot. That was the approved parking lot, and there was a retaining wall that was built to construct that, but that's all in the permit and the plans, et cetera. There is I call it a farmer's wall, but it is a collection of stones that are to the left of those sheds, okay, that created a building pad, for want of a better word, for this old house that was there, that again was accessed by Route 25. You can actually see those two green areas. Between those, there was an area which was high and dry, and that was actually, and that went all the way up to 25 years ago.
So
And
where is the house? The house was further back in the
house was-
property?
Yeah, the house was more or less, you know, in that area where the hand is. That was the exit of the driveway, if you will,
Okay.
up onto this elevated piece of property. And see, you know, that was heading up toward Route 25. And again, in that general area, more or less, is where this house stood. Now, I'm not sure, you know, you'd have better records than we would, whether that was part of the summer camp or whether that was an individual's home. I don't know.
Right. Doesn't really matter either. So-
Doesn't really matter. But anyway, in creating that, as you know, you oftentimes see in buildings that, you know, kind of date back prior to the 80s, you know, they would cut a driveway through, you know, wetter areas, and then they would build up on a higher area. And so there are some stones that go from the discharge of that driveway, you know, across. Those were there. We didn't move those. So if that, you know, again, there's two walls. There's one that is very new. It's part of our parking lot and was part of the design of the parking lot. And then the only other wall that I saw was the one that went
Like that, yeah.
no, actually, you go down a little bit. Nope. And there we go. And kind of over toward the right.
Okay.
Right there?
Yeah, and you can actually see it in some of your photos.
Okay.
And so as far as creating, you know, any retaining walls or anything like that, you know, not the case.
Those are all there, okay.
Can I just ask, I'm confused, did you buy the entire property as one unit, or did you buy it piecemeal?
The first piece of property we bought was called 4 Maple Drive, which is, it fronts on Maple Drive, obviously.
Right,
And it was kind of a pie-shaped piece of property.
okay, is that the one where the sign is that says O'Keefe Controls? Okay, so that was the original piece,
Yep, and that was
Okay.
purchased in 81.
and then you bought a piece behind it?
Yep, we bought a piece of property from the Kimball Group, and
Okay.
that extended, now it's on this drawing that you're showing there, that's actually larger than the piece we actually bought. I think if you
Oh.
refer to some of the other ones, it shows more clearly the area that we're in. Yeah, actually, you can see there on that particular map, the orange lines. There's, you know, two pieces of property shown there. Ours is 4 Maple Drive, which is on the left. All right, and so you see the yellow number 4,
Mhm.
and then behind it is the barn, which has existed. Apparently, that's a relatively old structure. All right, and you can see just to the right of that is the orange boundary line, and it comes across this dashed line. Yep, there you go. And then you follow that. Continue to follow that, and then it makes a dog leg, and then back the other way.
Okay.
So is that whole area now covered with millings?
No, because there's wetlands on the property. Our property line to the left there more or less bisects the larger wetlands.
Okay.
The millings go from, they start here, and they go down and somewhere along here, then they come over to here. You know, or they extend into the next property that we'll talk about. But I don't know exactly where they are on this side. And that's something that, until we have a survey, we don't know how close it is to the wetland. But it certainly is within upland review area.
Okay.
Within 100 feet.
Other than parking for 20 to 25, we'll say 30 people just for giggles, are there plans? Do you have plans for that section of land?
Well, so I had mentioned a couple of the uses. One was to first extend our existing second was to create access to the traffic light on.
Right,
the
but that only
section.
requires a driveway, not a
Sure.
large parcel, so
And
that's why.
then the, said there was three, I'm gonna add one more, we'll make it four. There was hope for expansion in there, and we actually did do some preliminary discussions with a local construction firm. They came back with a site plan keeping in mind all of the setbacks and parking, whatnot, for a building that was just about 9,300 square feet. The building that we occupy right now is about 12,000 square feet, so that came up a little bit short. So we're kind of betwixt and between on that. The fourth use of that lot, every 2 years we have a company picnic, and so we park the cars of people who are attending, in that area, once every 2 years. It's actually what one of the sheds housed was a dance floor, but that's gone now. There'll be no dancing.
Dancing on the gravel. Okay,
Okay.
so I think it'd probably be good for us to see the site. I mean, the aerial photography doesn't really necessarily show exactly what's there. Would you be amenable for us to come on site, coordinate with you or any other representatives you'd like to visit the site? We can max do it 3 at a time because we can't have a quorum at any visit.
Okay.
If you're okay with that, then that email that you're gonna send to Donna, if you could just give her a number, the best number to reach you,
Okay.
and she will send it out to us and we'll coordinate a time to visit the site.
Okay.
And then, once we have that information, we'll come back and deliberate and send you a letter saying how we'd like to move forward.
All right, fair enough.
Okay? Good, any other questions for Mr. O'Keefe? Okay, thank you very much.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is IWV 2014-02, 8 Maple Drive. This is also the first review of that. Is the property owner here? Yes, if you'd like to come forward and just introduce yourself.
Good evening, my name is Millie Rizzio, and I'm one of the property owners of 8 Maple Drive.
Okay. Now, you don't own also 12 Maple Drive?
Yes,
You own both?
yes.
Okay, do you mind if we handle them both at the same time, just to keep everything?
Let's-
Yeah, moving along.
Yeah, it's the same sketch.
Same sketch, so.
The only difference is, what I can explain is that the millings and the use of the use of the area extends into 8. And 8 extends, oops, let me get rid of this. There's as far as 12 is a very small lot, there's a garage in the back corner, and there's a door in the back of the garage, so vehicles can come in through the garage. And this small little area right here is being utilized for access into this lot, so that's been disturbed back here. And back in this area, there's storage and use going on within the upland review area. The upland review area is this dashed line right here. There's 2 things going on here. There's a brook tributary that comes through here, and then there's the Pequannock River that comes down into here.
Now, that tributary is buried?
I don't believe so. That's,
It's an open
It's an open
brook?
brook.
So there's a good sized gash between the 2 properties?
I would say yes.
Okay,
But it is an open brook. I mean, we had to reroute the brook when we had the original building expanded
on 8.
on number 8.
Yep.
And the Army Corps of Engineers came in and did what they needed to do to reroute and gave us a little walking bridge over there, and that's about it.
it's hard to pick it up, but it's right there.
Okay, and I think I see the walking bridge over there,
And
right?
it must be piped right in this area.
Yes, it is piped underground.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a better shot there.
Okay, and there's 12 Maple.
right. Is
There's
that
8 and
house in
12.
the shed?
Hey,
And there's the
Drummond,
garage.
and here's the
Garage, sorry,
brook,
yes.
and it's piped back in there.
Okay. So, I guess same questions,
There's a
basically.
good shot of the area that's, been cleared and filled and is being utilized this
Okay,
whole.
that truck is not there anymore, that one's been sold.
Okay,
Mind you, originally, way back when, we had our business there, Custom Craft Kitchens,
okay,
and, as a 2012, Custom Craft Kitchens actually closed the door, we finalized everything, we closed up. So that truck was there for a little while
until it's sold,
before we
yeah.
sold it, and now it's sold. The other truck that is there is also up for sale, and, eventually we will sell it.
Okay,
So is the building currently in use,
The building is currently in use, yes.
but not as a craft shop, I mean, not as a,
Custom Craft Kitchens
okay.
anymore.
is it the same basic kind of business?
No, it's a business that does, it's a business that is more central to the building. In other words, Custom Craft used to do like spraying, we have spray booths in the back. This particular business does not do that. This business mostly receives goods, does very detailed handiwork. They do, in other words, the barrels, rifle barrels,
Mm-hmm.
okay, not the barrels, but the actual stock. They do the engraving
okay.
on
Oh,
the
okay,
stocks.
and I was just curious as to
Yeah,
what
so
was
they're
in there,
not
okay.
using quite the paints that we used to, they're not using the sprays that we used to, although everything that we did to the best of our ability
Sure.
for the environment.
Oh, yeah.
Now, are you still looking to keep the connection between the two properties, or do they not really need the second connection to larger
No,
property?
as a matter of fact, the garage is not being used as a garage at all.
Okay,
Okay, we have some equipment stored there that belonged to us when we did Custom Craft
the old
Kitchens.
business, yeah.
Eventually, it may be sold, but
No,
right now, we're using it for storage.
okay.
you
No, I
know.
was just wondering, so same kind of question, what are the future plans for the property? Is there anything that you guys are trying to do to the property, or?
Well, number 12 Maple Drive has always been rented. We've owned it for over 25 years now. Had always been rented as a residential. And number 8 Maple Drive is now rented, okay, whereas we used to use it for manufacturing. They now are using it, what you could call manufacturing. But otherwise, other than that, no, we don't have any specific plans.
Plans for it.
We're kind of getting older. We don't want to do anything.
That's fine.
That's why we sold the business.
Gotcha. Any other questions from the commission? Otherwise, I think we're probably gonna go the same route and wanna visit the site just to see what's actually going on, kind of thing. And then we would figure out
You
how we're
had
gonna work.
questioned the fence that's on 12 Maple, I believe?
Oh, is there, in the file, a question about the fence?
Yeah, the fence, apparently, there's no permit, and
Is that all that there was we needed to pull a permit? Because we had it put in by Colonial Fence. I would have assumed if they needed a permit, they would have pulled one.
no, the permit in terms of, that you're referring to is more zoning. No, we're just indicating that it's within their regulated area, and there was never any approval of sorts from the Wetlands Department or Commission.
Because, I mean, if it's just a requirement of pulling a permit, I mean, we'll go ahead and do it.
Yeah, no, it's a little more than that.
It's
But-
more, it's probably more the pathway connecting the two properties, because that crosses a wetland, and getting that kind of stuff on the map. But again, we probably need to see the site to know exactly
Okay.
what's needed.
Mhm.
I don't wanna make assumptions from aerial drawings. So, yeah, same, Donna, do you have a card for
I do, yeah.
our property owner here?
And
If you could just
actually, though,
give
I
her
think-
your,
No, I have
You
your
have a cell phone
contact-
number or
I do,
phone
I
number?
have contact information, but this
I just
is-
don't want you to say it on the record and
Yeah,
part of
no.
our meeting minutes and all that stuff, so,
Can you
um,
hand
that's the office contact
Well, To be
number.
honest with you, you questioned the fence in there, and I'm going, gee, did we need a permit for this? I really don't know.
It's more of a, in my understanding, it's more of an administrative office sign off that the
Well,
wetlands
yeah, it
department.
depends. I mean, it depends on what's being proposed, but some type of a permit from wetlands is needed because it's within an upland review area.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, we'll address all that, when, basically the same thing, we'll visit the site, and send a letter basically saying how the process will work going forward. All right?
Yeah. Okay.
And if you have any questions,
yeah.
There-
you
there's a
call
number
me.
on there.
Contact us in writing when you'd like to come out. Do you want a
we'll,
phone
we'll,
number?
we'll call you on
What
the
I'll
number we have.
do is I'm going to give just the commission member your contact information, and they will call you and set up a time when 2 or 3 of them can go out and walk the property, but they'll call you first to let you know that they're coming. So you can, I do, yes.
Although
Yeah,
it's not
'cause you had-
essential that you be there, so if you
Right.
don't want to be there, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, just know that you don't have to be, just.
That's perfect. And there's a note that, so we can't deliberate on in the field, so we can ask like where things are and what things are kind of thing on the map, but we can't really say, you know, give you any idea where the next process is, because we're gonna be only 2 or 3 commission members and the whole board needs to make that decision in a public meeting. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for coming in.
Oh, boy, I really have to read this because the writing in here is really bad.
Well, no, the lights came on.
Well, up here it's glaring.
They have spotlights right over the, yeah. All right.
I noticed that.
Moving on to the next section of the agenda,
Wait,
section
wait,
6.
Hold on.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, just 1 second.
Yep.
Sure.
That's why I asked if you had my contact information, because what you have on.
Oh.
Okay, but then use the card and just email Donna your contact information.
Okay,
So that it's not,
perfect,
again, I
thank
just
you.
trying to avoid it being part of the public record.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
You
Yeah,
too.
you too.
Yes, you already did.
Okay.
The one for,
Section 6,
12.
IWC 2014-12, 585 Main Street, Monroe Muffler, request to eliminate required trap hoods within catch basins.
All right, you're gonna have to wait a minute, I'm
He's
still
writing notes.
writing from the last one.
Start. I'd like a footnote for record, Donna's caught in trouble.
All night, though, wait, you know, she's really up to
She's
no
talking
good
with
this one.
Ross.
And I was asking Ross about his class.
Oh.
That was the conversation going on
Oh,
about
yeah,
words.
I'm not worried about it.
Didn't want anyone to get the wrong idea.
That's not the idea we had.
I'm just trying to record what you just did so that it's
Yep.
It's a
there.
good idea.
Okay, you wanna
580
know about 585 Main Street?
Correct, sir.
Okay, 585 Main Street is the Monroe muffler
Oh, yeah.
property. And they built it. We've done lots of inspection with it. There were many, many issues. And as it turns out, they finished the work, and one of the punch list items was that the vent hoods were not put in the catch basins. So when they went out there to put the vent hoods in, they discovered that because of the construction, they couldn't fit a fabricated, manufactured vent hood on the side wall of the catch basin because of the lack of cover that's out there, and there's not enough room, it doesn't physically fit. They couldn't find one that would fit on the sidewall. So they kept giving me details, their engineer kept giving me details of pipes that like fit inside the pipe that's there with like some type of a jury rig gasket or something, and quite frankly, I didn't find it acceptable. Because the whole purpose of it would be to hold oils within the catch basin, and if it's not a tight fit, it's not gonna work. And it's just gonna be in the way. They're gonna go in there, they're gonna clean the manhole, the catch basin, they're gonna rip it out, and that's what's gonna
Dump
happen.
everything in it.
So, when I took a closer look, I realized that I think what happened is they just put it in their proposal and it got accepted. In their drainage train, they have a stormwater quality control unit that they installed after the last catch basin and prior to dumping into the recharge system. So they have the stormwater control measures. The engineer sent you a letter, and he went through the whole thing about the efficiency that they're providing for. And both he and I are saying that, you know what, instead of trying to come up with something that kind of works, you don't even need them. Why don't we just skip it? But I said that you have to come before the commission, and you guys would have to accept that.
So do you recommend that this is an okay thing to do?
I do.
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, we have Lois and James. Any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
And
Motion passes unanimously.
that'll go to P and Z too, so they have to
Oh, my God.
accept it as well.
Send our condolences to Jim. All right, so we do have a completed hearing for this agenda, 232 Elm Street. Well, it's not a motion, but I'll entertain a recommendation for the office to draft a letter.
Yes, please.
In support, right?
Yep.
Okay. What conditions do we want on the letter?
Okay. What?
Add the boulders to the line of the trees with wetland markers.
Yeah, I have moved, well, Scott, if you have, Scott will do his bullets, then we'll add ours.
Yep.
Rather than doing this piecemeal.
Sorry. They weren't working.
Okay, so 232, so we're looking at, they're not doing they're gonna do the plantings in the wetlands, and you accepted the plan that was submitted tonight in the description, with the exception of the correction to 12 instead of,
Yeah. To match the visual,
the
but not
match the
the,
visual, okay.
but not the text.
And then I've got, let's see, what else do we?
You're gonna leave the ones on about them
So
giving
then-
you the yellow copy.
They're gonna do markers at 10-foot offset
Yeah.
along the wetland. And I'm suggest that they cut across that lot 2 and encompass that area they're
Yeah,
going.
I disagree that, I think if the more markers does not make them less potent.
I
Because
agree.
if you see them, you at least question it, and at least then I don't have applicants and property owners coming for us and saying, what
Why didn't we
wetlands?
know?
Yeah, and you guys have always required that they go on
Yes.
the limit of future
Disturbance.
use and disturbance.
Scott, that'll carry them across that easement, correct?
It will,
We didn't
yes.
even discuss that easement, did we?
So,
But that easement area is continues to be a regulated area for you. And they would have to come back certainly to you. I don't see any practical use for that easement. And I think that you should, I think you should, my suggestion is that you should include in your referral to planning and zoning that you don't see any need for it, and that certainly your approval does not in any way
Yeah.
imply that
That
would be
easement has to be
acceptable
there.
to use.
yes,
I mean, anybody can put an easement on their property afterward. They don't even need our permission, they can just grant an easement. So I recognize that there are easements there. A lot of people think that if there's an easement, they have the right to just use it, and so I think if you put that qualifying statement
Yep.
on, it would be helpful.
then are we gonna draft the recommendation also as part of this?
Yeah, that'll be a separate, what we do is a
But it'll be
separate
two
letter.
drafts.
Yes, we're
Yeah.
gonna do both at the same time.
Perfect.
Add a comment. Okay, so let me back up here. So the issues were the plantings, the swale along the road, which he's saying they're not gonna do. And,
Now, we've had swales along roadways in
Yeah.
some of our plans. He said that P and Z doesn't allow it.
no, they will allow
Oh,
it. They-
so we should
What he
bring
was
it up.
referring to is planning and zoning does require curbing along a road, but I know that in the past, they have acquiesced on that. If there's a good reason and biofiltration swales, they will certainly consider that. As you know, I'm not a great proponent of that,
I know.
although there
We-
are
we come to grips
places,
with that
my
one.
philosophy is collect the water, put it somewhere. If you want that swale along the road, collect the water and put it into the swale. I do not like sheet flow, but I know not everyone agrees with that.
Okay, we don't have, it's a moot point
Yeah,
now
and
because
there are
we can't do
certainly
anything
places
about it
where
anyway, but
this is such a
just the
short,
future.
yeah, it's such a short road, and it would be very difficult. They'd have driveway crossings with culverts. I mean, it wouldn't amount to anything if they did it. I think the way he's proposing it is more
Okay.
practical.
That's fine.
And then we had the markers that you talked about, so I think you touched on everything about the wetlands assessment. we'll get the housekeeping items straight with the deep reporting form and the original soils report. I'll put that on there. Potential development concept plan, I'll include that as a referral comment that we just discussed. The show limits of the road construction will be on the approval letter, he's agreed to do it. The drainage calculations about the tabular hydrograph, in addition to the graphical hydrograph, he's agreed to do that, and he's agreed to give the invert information and calculation in the street. $26,000 bond. That's all I had for the regulated activity. For referral comments, I had the potential lot layout alternatives should be discussed, noting that comments relative to the same should be referred to the Planning and Zoning Commission if not addressed during this application. So typically, your process would look at the proposed lots and decide if you felt they're appropriate, and usually if you don't feel they're appropriate, it's usually relayed during the hearing.
Mhm.
And if that gives the applicant the opportunity to make any changes to the layout that you may want to see. And then if they don't make those changes, then you can send the Planning and Zoning Commission a referral comment saying that, hey, you know, we don't like such and such a lot, and maybe you should make them change that. So on that issue, is there anything you want said or done?
Well, there was nothing discussed during the hearing, so there really isn't anything we can deliberate on, right?
I think I don't think you have to have it in the hearing. I mean, it's just a comment that goes to planning and zoning. But that's not to say you will have a comment. The fact that you didn't even discuss it at the hearing may imply that it's not something you were concerned about.
Well, in the beginning of the hearing, we did mention, he did mention that because of the subdivision regs that we have in place, he had to lay it out with 4 1-acre parcels. If it were not in the regs that way, I would love to recommend to P&Z that they quickly get installed a conservation subdivision reg so that we can make a more sensible subdivision out of it. We could have had, if some of that land had been set aside in the floodplain area, they could have put all the development on the other side and left that side open space. But because of the way P&Z has their regs, they can't do that.
Well, my understanding is that there is an allowance for let's call it a cluster type development. There are regulations that allow that. But this application is for a conventional, he has the right to come in for a
Right, but we could
conventional-
have recommended a cluster as opposed to that, could we not?
And you still could say that. You could still say, if there is any potential for a cluster-type development, you'd like it to be discussed with the Planning and Zoning Commission during that process.
To eliminate
Because
development
keep it-
in
Further
upland,
minimize.
further
Well-
minimize development in the upland review.
Right, I think if they
Yeah,
could put more of it on the other side, they could,
I think,
You
I mean,
know.
obviously it'd have to come back before us because,
Yeah, and I'm not real focused on that. I mean, I'm not planning and zoning, but I believe from my recollection of seeing files and things that I think that Trailside, that Bird's Eye Estates, that they're just starting to build now, I think that's a cluster type arrangement there.
I don't have a problem putting it in. I mean, obviously, if they change it significantly, it's gonna be coming back before us if they move the road or anything like that.
not if it's without, not if they kept it outside of URA. Wouldn't
Good
have to
point.
come to us.
Good point. Yes, if they kept it out of the upland review, it wouldn't have to come for us at
So-
all.
So I'm just writing a draft, and so I could ask the planner about that, so I could tailor the comment
Yep.
to be more applicable to our actual regulations, so I can do
That
that.
sounds good.
That's
Right.
real good.
Clarification be provided indicating the separate inland wetland application for a lot development will be required. I'm suggesting you make and put that as a note on the subdivision plan. You could, that really can be both a referral comment and a condition of your approval, so.
Yep.
I'm seeing that you agree with that, I'll put
What,
that
what,
on.
what- I'm sorry, you blew through that so fast that I,
A note
Just the
that
very beginning.
any subdivision, or any development on the lots has to go through us still.
That has regulated activity,
That has
has to come
regulated
back to
activities.
you
Okay.
for your.
This is not an
applications.
approval of that plan to be built.
right,
Right,
okay.
because there's a
As is.
lot of confusion in that. A
There
lot
is,
of people think
absolutely.
that they
I'm
can
fine
just
with that being a very much a
build.
condition.
And that and also that the notation, same thing with the notation about the provisions for retention, site retention, that is happening when they build the house. It's not part of the subdivision,
Right,
but the proposal to provide that is part of the subdivision. So I'm suggesting that you make it a condition of your approval, that they put that on the subdivision plan, and to further back it up, make it a review comment that goes to the P and Z Commission as well.
Okay. That's for the treatment.
And then when they come in, that also flags it for me or someone in the future to say, hey, you gotta put in retention and all that.
so that's supposed to be
Incidentally,
put in with the
There's
subdivision development?
pretty major changes coming through the MS4 program through the state of Connecticut where they're mandating that the towns require reduction in impervious area and retention of stormwater quality volume and all that
That'll
stuff.
be
Good.
So things are gonna get
That'll be
much,
great.
much tighter as we move
Well,
along.
then, a lot easier to do
And
what
this
we
will
need to
be
do.
one of the easier ways for the town to address some of the MS4 requirements.
Mhm.
The much more difficult ways will be not on the development end, but all more on the retrofitting and that stuff.
Right, yeah.
So just for your info.
All right.
And I think that's all
I think
oh,
that's
then I
all
had a
I
bunch of comments I wrote down.
The
So move
spruce,
the other wetlands markers to 10 feet uphill.
Mhm.
Plantings in wetland to be hand dug and installed, hand dug and hand installed, minimal non-destructive equipment. Yeah, I'm assuming you don't want any equipment in there like little backhoes.
Minimal non-destructive equipment, that's a double negative.
Well,
you want
No,
minimal
minimal-
non-destruction,
Yeah,
non-destructive.
minimal-
Minimal, comma,
comma, non-destructive equipment.
otherwise using the fewest non-destructive
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
equipment.
pretty much at that point,
You
I'm
didn't
gonna-
usually say punctuation when you read it.
I'm gonna wordsmith that anyway. But what I mean
Good.
is, you wanna relay that they're supposed to be very careful about how they go in there to do
Right,
these.
that's,
yeah, no giant tractors.
Yeah,
Basically
excavated
not
rocks
tractor.
and boulders to be placed along the 10-foot offset line.
do we need to put an on-center situation with that?
I don't know, you may not get any boulders. And remember that it's a field that they've been farming and they probably pulled most of the
Yeah,
rocks
that's
and
true,
things out of
that's
it.
true.
Obviously, when they dig the foundations, they're gonna come
Right,
across some stuff,
okay.
maybe. I'm
Good, then they could put 2 boulders, and that would satisfy the requirement unless we gave some kind of,
It's kind of a tough
Yeah.
one. I don't know. What do you want me to put?
I don't know.
My tendency would be to say to them in our inspection review process, we say, look, take these rocks, if you don't have enough to make a wall, then have a gap, and then make a little wall again, you know,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. But I don't know how you're gonna put that in your approval.
That's about it.
Yeah, and I'll do the best I can with trying to
Okay.
get them to do
Great.
something with it. Meadow mix to be provided in the floodplain compensatory area. Put spruce, or provide spruce trees in lieu of the provided or proposed pine trees. And that's all I have.
I think that's all I had. Anything else?
no, I think that's all I've got too.
Okay, then off the draft goes. Okay, next item on the agenda, we do have a draft for IWC 2016-12, 146 Cutler Farm Road, 267 and 287 Purdy Hill Road. Proposed 15-unit age-restricted housing, Beaver Brook LLC. I'll entertain a motion.
Which one do you need? Which one do you need? Which one? What one are we on for? Harwich or-
146 Cutler.
146 Hut Colors, 15-unit house development.
Did I hear a second?
I haven't gotten a motion yet.
Okay.
Move to approve the draft as presented.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion by Lois, a second by Megan. Any discussion or changes to the draft?
Okay, so you all, let me just describe what you got first and then talk about changes.
Okay.
Is that okay? You all got a 6-page draft for 146 Cutlers. It lists these plans that were submitted for the original. It lists 2 reasons for your approval. And it lists the plans that were accepted as the final approval set that addressed what you wanted to get approved. Under section, on page 3, under section A, the conditions for 270 days, it lists a number of items that needed to be added to the plans, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bulleted items for that. It goes on to list other items, standard items that are in all your approval letters relative to things that have to be done before the pre-construction meeting and the certificate of occupancy and before the bond release. And there are the standard comments that are put in there, timing, expiration and transfer of approval and permit, which are standard comments that I put in there. And then the last page includes other statements and clarifications that are typical as well.
Okay, I do have one comment on that. Looking back, listening to the tape, you guys didn't actually do the reasons that why, and you actually did not do it tonight on 232, why you wanted to approve that. So I actually need clarification on all that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Good catch.
good catch, right.
So
Okay.
what was put in then, I'm assuming
That's why I
were,
left it
were
highlighted.
just highlighted items from a previous approval, just as standard
Right, it
comments.
says, I'll read it just so that you know. It says, "The commission finds that the submitted application materials are consistent with the requirements as set forth by the current Town of Monroe Inland Wetlands and Watercourse regulations and the Inland Water and Watercourses Act pursuant to sections 22A 36, 22A 45, inclusive of Connecticut General Statutes as amended. The applicant has presented uncontradicted expert evidence that the activities as proposed in this application pose no adverse impact to the regulated areas."
Decided perfect.
Sounds good?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. And that is for all 3? Because we're doing
that's
2
the-
approvals and we're doing this.
Right, you gotta do them one at a time.
Okay,
Yeah, let's do them one at a time.
okay.
So 146, any other changes the
Which
commission
was
wants
the
to make
one
to
I
that?
said you would change on? I didn't print them out since we don't get the
I
draft.
did make those changes.
that change already?
Absolutely.
Did the commission see it?
The one word, no, I think it was actually,
I think it might have been the other one.
I think it was
High
140.
Ridge?
You think it was, oh,
I
you
don't
know what,
remember.
you're
I
right.
really don't
This is
remember.
the draft for High Ridge. And
Right.
all I think it was.
Oh, the remains. That's what it was.
Oh,
It wasn't in
yeah,
here
that's
that.
not the right, Scott's doesn't have it. I did take that word out.
Okay, alrighty.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's all we had,
There
wasn't
was-
it?
yeah.
We added, it wasn't in here about the, unless it's in here.
Are you guys looking at the next one?
No, we're looking at,
Yes,
This-
this is for High Ridge, so
Oh,
we have to go.
never
I'm
mind.
sorry.
I'll continue, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around here.
All in favor of IWC 2016-12 draft letter approval, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Any abstentions? None. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, IWC 2016-13. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve draft with
Possible minor amendments.
Okay,
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Lois and a second by Pete. Any discussion? And go ahead, Scott, and give us a summary.
Yeah, this is a 5-page draft approval letter. It includes a reference to what was submitted for the initial application. It includes the same two comments that were apparently, and Donna, help me out here, those two also were not
Correct.
specifically stated, so they were just two standard comments that were put in there that you need to consider. It goes on to list the final plans that you would be submitting, approving. It lists under the category A, within 270 days, the items that would have to be addressed in order for that to occur, or in order for them to lock in their approval. In there, it lists a number of items that needed to be shown on the drawings. They're A through D in this case. It talks about filing of the approval on the land records and filing of the final plans. It includes standard other categories such as things that need to be done before the pre-construction meeting can be scheduled and before the certificate of occupancy and the building permit and the bond release. It includes the standard requirements that are in all the approvals. It includes the standard timing, expiration, and transfer approval permit, and it includes the standard clarification statements, et cetera, as well. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Lois, any changes you
The
found?
only change is one that has already been made through the office, but it was not on the copy that the commission received initially, and that was on page 3. We added the item D, a notation indicating that stones excavated during the site and house construction shall be loosely placed along the existing stone wall remains across the rear yard, limits of disturbance as discussed during the hearing. That phrase was missing at that time, which changed the last word on comment 1B, where we're just removing the word remains, so that the limits of development shall be along the southwesterly side of the rear yard stone wall, period.
Okay,
And that's it.
makes sense. Thank you. Any other changes, discussion? Hearing none, and everybody's okay with the reasons as Donna stated during the last one? Sounds good. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. And just as a point of order, is everybody okay with those reasons also being used for 232
Elm Street.
Elm Street? Thank you. Seeing consensus is yes. Okay, next item on the agenda, bond releases and reductions, Jockey Hollow.
Okay, so we got a request for a bond release. It's been multiple requests, but Conrad did his usual thing with the inspection, and he brought me out there today to take a look at it. I went out earlier, good couple months ago as well. And there's some concerns on our part about it, and we need your help with it. He loaded on the original property plan here, the approval plan, which is this plan here, we'll go back to it, and I'm in trouble here. Here is the landscaping plan. The problem with it is that this is the plan that was submitted for landscaping. And you may recall that there's a stone wall that they had to build that comes down here and then across the back. And that was built before they started the house construction. And then there was a lot of invasives in both of these areas beyond the stone wall that they had to eliminate. And then they were going to go in and do this landscaping. Problem is, the approval, although it had this landscaping plan, it had this is their landscaping schedule, and they did not provide any sizes.
Oh, boy.
So when we went out, when Conrad goes out there, you can't even find the plantings. And he's telling me they're so small, they're about 3 inches high, and they're little tiny seedlings, little sapling, we call them seedlings. And therefore, all you can see is just grass and invasives. There's a bunch of reports that were done, and even the last report, it says that there's still invasives out there. But they took out the ones that they could take out. They spread wood chips in the area behind the house here. Hold on. I don't know why this computer is so slow. There's wood chips spread all in here. I think the photos that we took will help a lot. A couple things they did, and I forgot to show you, but right on this side of the house, they put a shed in, and that's a zoning violation, and it's within your upland review area, so we're gonna ask for that to be removed or relocated. This plan shows the stone wall going all the way to the property line. There's a considerable gap in the wall right at the end here, so you could drive a small vehicle in or gain access into the regulated area very easily. And I think the intent was to have the wall go all the way to the property line. So that's the second issue that's a problem.
Is this the one that's right on the lake?
Yes, lake's right here. We thought that.
Wasn't the stone wall a retaining wall also?
No.
No?
It's just a wall that marks. We thought it was supposed to be a loose masonry wall, and they mortared it. It's a beautiful wall, but they mortared it. But then when we went back to the approval, we couldn't find anything saying that it couldn't be mortared, so that's okay. And this shows you the lot. This is the pond. Come on. Okay, there's the house from the front, so you know where you are. The wetlands, here's where the brook is, and the wetlands go down the side over there. Here's the shed on the other side that we're gonna have to get removed. This is the gap in the wall right here.
Missed it by that much.
Nitpicky.
So you can go around the gap. This is the wall behind the back, and this whole area, they took out invasives behind this clump of trees and all in here, and they put wood chips. This is a pile of, looks like a pile of invasives that they just piled there. So we're not sure.
Are they dead, or are they?
These are dead, but they're just sitting there.
But they
in a
haven't been
pile.
removed,
They haven't been
Okay.
removed. There they are right there.
as long as they're not alive.
And here's the wood chips. These plantings down in there are, correct me if I got the wrong term, but I think they're called lamb's ear. You ever hear that?
Oh, yeah.
Stackies.
What?
Lamb's ear is a perennial.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it looks
Fuzzy
like to
leaves.
me. It's like fuzzy and like
Yeah.
a big,
Mhm.
so I don't know if those are, I thought they were invasive.
No,
But there's a couple those things planted in, growing in there, but this is like when you walk on it, it's kind of mushy. It feels like it's about 6 to 8 inches deep, but it's all wood chips in there. And you can see that's what's there. So our question is that acceptable?
No.
Okay. Here's the lamb's ears right there,
Oh, those are beautiful.
okay? And now, this is going up the side of their property. You can see the water here backs
Oh, you know,
up.
it could be verbena too.
There it is,
There
there.
they are, right there.
That
So
could be a
where's the-
weed, there's a
that,
weed.
isn't that one with the huge yellow
I think that's
star?
verbena they call
There
it.
you go, there's a big picture.
Oh, yeah, that's
of
not
it.
Yeah.
lamb's ear.
That's not lamb's ear.
No,
Okay, so,
that is a weed, you were right.
okay, so I was right.
Oh, well, one man's weed, you know?
Hey,
Is it an invasive weed, or is it
One man's weeds, another man's
All
flower,
right,
man.
so that's that, now
Yeah,
let's keep
talk to
going.
butterflies,
So this
they
is
like it.
going up the side now, and this is the brook coming up, and this is where the plantings are supposed to be. There's actually a little dam in the brook, but it looks really old, so I'm not even gonna go there on that. But this is looking up the side yard, there's all grasses and looks like weeds and invasives to us. We can't even find the saplings in there. But that's a close-up view of it.
Well, was this designed by a landscape architect or a soil scientist or
You know,
something?
this is, yeah, well,
originally?
we have an approval, this is the stuff that's in there.
I think the problem is that we didn't specify sizes.
Yeah, which I
So
don't think we
really-
can hold them accountable for what we didn't.
Well,
Okay,
if it's not there and we can't find it.
yeah, so.
Well, I mean, their own planting, or their own report
I mean,
says
so you
that their
can see
bases
what's
are
there,
bad.
it's like, what, you know? So,
Yeah, but I mean, how small a plant can you actually buy?
well, these are,
They
these
make,
were,
they make seed, yeah.
they were,
Well, yeah, but they make seed, but who's gonna actually put a seedling in there and then,
You can go through those magazines, you know, that you get in the spring, and they've got them as
Yeah, the
sprigs.
little bare root things.
Yeah, little bare
six
so,
inch things.
anyway, there's the front area, there's the angle in it, and to go back to the approved wetlands plan. Well, I've gotta find it, so hold on. Is that it?
Good enough. It's got the bend.
There it is. All right. So this is what they were supposed to plant. Red maple, you know, you
Sweet
could
gum,
read through this.
Shotwell,
was it
Manberry.
guaranteed for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, they had to do they had to do the follow-up reports and all that.
But I mean,
I-
was
we
it guaranteed
provided
for
you
a
with the last
couple of
report.
years?
What?
Guaranteed for a few years?
I didn't see
The
any
plants?
sulky dogwood.
Yeah, if you could find them, but they're supposed to be nanny berry and shadow blow and sweet
Well, if they've
gum.
been in there for several
Silky
years, they
dogwood.
shouldn't be 3
should
inches
be.
tall anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, even
true.
if they were seedlings, if they survived, they should be.
If
So-
they were
I mean,
3
that
years,
tree
My
should be 3 or
suggestion-
4 feet by now.
Yeah,
My
elderberry should
suggestion
be
is
taller
that,
than that.
why don't you guys check it out? Why don't you go out there and look at it and tell me if, or unless you're ready to tell me right here and now.
We're
that
not
it's
happy.
I think they're gonna have to plant something that we can find.
Okay, so you want,
Deny the-
your feeling is that the plantings should be larger specimens and that the gap in the wall should be eliminated, the wall should be extended to the property line, and that how about the wood chips in the back, is that acceptable?
I think so.
What did they specify, anything?
Well, here's the plan. It didn't specify much.
And that's our fault.
What's the date on the plan, Scott?
Before
It's like
106.
That was a while ago.
So this is what's 5 of these CA and 1 NS. And you saw it does have a little clump of trees here.
Yeah, so that might actually be there.
And the 5 CAs are what? Silky dogwood. What's a silky dogwood look like?
I'm guessing it's a stemmy looking shrub.
Yeah, now I showed you the picture. That's where where I thought the lamb's ears were.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything there.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing
So,
survived.
so either put in larger specimen plantings and show us where they are, or come before the commission and explain themselves.
Right. Yep.
Plus you want the wall finished, and the wood chips, you're really holding back on that at the moment.
I mean, as long as they plant the plants, the wood chips are just ground cover,
Yeah, as long as they're not loaded with invasives and,
Okay,
which they don't seem to have any invasives, that part
all
anyway.
right. So you have the same concerns in that you don't want the bond released.
no,
Nope.
keep the bond.
Okay, all right. thank you.
Cool, all right. So that answers that question. Next one is section 9, time extensions, 100 Hammertown Road. Extension request to complete remediation work. I think we have a letter for this, right? Or an email?
Yep. It just says circumstances beyond their control.
Yeah,
I spoke to Gary Wolf when I was calling for permission to walk the property.
The other property, gotcha.
Yes, yeah, we won't go into that.
Hammertown and
Hammertown
Hammer,
versus Hattertown, yes.
Hattertown, it's very similar.
He explained that he said the plans are at the architect's and that the architect is dragging his feet, which is why they haven't been provided yet. He said they're there, they just can't seem to get the architect moving.
So
So that was his reason that he needed this extension.
he
That's
doesn't
what he
say
told
though
me.
how long of an extension.
He did not, you're right, and he didn't go into any
So should we-
detail other than the fact that
grant him 30 days and reevaluate and ask him for how long he needs?
How long is it? It's already been a long time. How many days have we extended this? I mean, granted, these are extenuating circumstances, like the woman is really ill.
Yes.
I have no idea what the situation is in this case, but my experience has been with these violations, a lot of times when the information is not being provided in a timely fashion, need I say more?
No, no, I
From
understand what you're saying.
professionals, I mean,
That being
Do
said,
you
though,
have it right there?
there's two types of these that have been going through. The ones that the people keep in contact with us and ask for extensions, and the ones that forget about it
Blow
and
us
then don't
off.
have extensions. And I'm still leaning towards, I'm okay with people asking extensions, at least they haven't forgotten about us.
Well, here, do you want to look at a copy?
There, yeah,
It's
there.
not really, the
Not
only
super
thing
It's
you're,
not, yeah, it's in the back.
I think this is the second extension.
yeah, this is
You
the
gave
first,
them-
this is the second.
You gave them
And it says
90,
nothing.
you gave them 90 days originally, then you granted an extension till now, and now they want another extension.
So so,
The extension, I
Last
think it was
extension was
30
90?
days, the last one.
so do we wanna just get ahead of this and give them 60 and then we'll consider that our 90 extension after a 90 and be done?
It's half a year.
How do you guys feel?
It was a 30-day extension, so they had 90 days, you granted 30 days, and now they're asking a third time.
So my thought is if we give them a 60-day, then we've given them 120 days, and or 160 days, sorry, math problem, then we're done for a bit. We're done extending.
But
So-
at what point, what's to keep them from coming back and asking for another one? I
Well,
mean,
saying we
determined
gave you 160 days, you know,
that we expect
show
that to-
something.
We expect that to be the drop dead date.
Yeah.
Bad choice of words.
No, 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 no,
The
no,
no
no,
return
no,
date.
no, yes, that's the last extension. or-
So this one looks like it went the route of a notice of violation, and they said, yeah, we'll bring in an application, and you told them how long, and so if they don't perform within that time schedule, at some point,
Yeah,
you
it's
tell
just
me
a
to
notice
issue a
of violation, it's
citation,
not
and we
a.
issue the citation.
Yep, so,
And then the citation that
Can I
hearing
move that we
officer will.
give them a 60-day extension?
okay, we have a
But,
motion.
yeah, but include in the letter that after the 60-day,
60
if we
days?
don't have something in front of us in 60 days, there will be a notice of, there will be
There'll be a citation
a
issue.
citation issue.
Okay.
And that,
So, okay, you're okay with that, Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, then we have a motion, second, Lois?
I second.
Okay. 60-day extension to be noted as the last extension, go to the citation process.
I'm sorry, who made it? Jim?
That was James.
And you, and I seconded you.
Okay. IWC Agent Activities Report, Scott, it's your show.
Do we have to talk about what the site visits?
Oh, yeah,
we
sorry, I
made?
meant to vote, thank you. Good catch.
Oh, good catch.
Yes, that's this violation
Oh, okay,
discussion
got
further
it,
down.
done it, sorry about that.
So, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes unanimously for a 60-day extension. Thank you, Megan. IWC Agent Activities Report. I don't see anything listed though, Scott, is there anything?
No.
Okay, now violation discussions, as Lois was talking about. So, violation discussion 1 is 100 Hammertown Road, which we already talked about. So I'm guessing we just want to continue on to 424 Hattertown. And I know several people made the visit today, and I made it yesterday. How would we like to proceed? I have a recommendation, but if you want to give one first, go for it.
Well, did she tell you that it was all there when they moved in?
What do you mean by what was all there?
That all of the changes, except for the lawn?
There's the little spot, so Scott, could you pull that up real quick?
Oh, the clearing.
Yeah, there's so if you pull up the map, and this is what I think I saw as well. Oh, no, it's because it's freaking sideways. So can you zoom out a little bit?
No, it goes on number 1. No. Okay.
No, the other one.
Oh, I'm sorry, number 2. Sorry, I never showed you that before.
I got it, don't worry.
Okay, let's see, rotate view.
And then zoom out just a little bit too. That's actually perfect, don't touch it. So, the shed, they admitted, has been moved up to pretty much where the target is. So that's on pre-existing yard.
Right.
So, although I don't appreciate, or I don't like that they moved it on their own, they moved it to the right spot. They need a permit for it still, but that's part of the thing. Where pretty much where, I guess this is David's drawing, I don't, David or Conrad. The difference between the black line and the green line in the purple or no, what is it? Five-sided figure? What's a five-sided?
Pentagon.
Pentagon? Pentagon? Okay. That has been cleared and made grass.
Right.
Yeah, and this portion within this disturbed area, this part of it is wetland.
Yes, and that's fine. There was some piles of cut up wood spattered across, and I did see some uprooted roots. So it does look like trees fell, they cut them up, and they put them in piles inside that purple square. Otherwise,
Inside the wetland or outside the wetland?
they're actually probably close to where the wetland meets the purple square, right, yeah, right there, closer to the drive. Scott, a little higher, north, a little more. Nope, you're going, oh, sorry, keep going up on the drawing. Warmer, yeah, you're going good, keep going a little more.
Closer
right-
to the word drive.
Yes,
I thought you meant the driveway.
no, sorry, yeah, so it's right on the other side of the pink line. Yeah,
Okay, right
so
in
right there was
Yeah, right where
one
he
pile
has
of logs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right
and there was another pile of logs where the 4/6 is, that he admitted was a tree that they cut down. That was, that you could, 4/6, up, keep going on along the road, there you go, 4/6.
416.
Oh, okay.
Is that a 1/6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's a 416 contour, right?
4/16 contour, so yeah, there's a pile of logs
No,
there.
it's a
And they showed me where that
distance.
stump is, and that's in the clearing, and that tree was rotted out, like a 2-inch hole was rotted in the center of it. That tree was gonna fall if they didn't cut it down, so it was definitely dead. So-
I'm more concerned about the filling.
Where did you see filling?
Well, the first grass area just beyond the shed. If you went
Just beyond the shed, like,
beyond where the shed is now, not the picture. If
Okay.
you move the shed is now up where that jut is in the green, and it's over, yeah, a little further down. Sorry, it's really hard to describe, isn't it?
it's where the target is,
There you
wherever
go.
the target is,
You got
that
control.
little,
Take the con.
Here we go. Okay. The shed is approximately here right now.
exactly,
So this whole area is now grass,
yes. But I didn't get the impression it was filled with anything more than topsoil.
except that there was
The contour
a
meant,
wall at the end where everything was pushed,
right.
and a drop-off behind it.
Not much, though, a foot max.
Well, that a foot can be filling too.
But the explanation I got for the rock wall was that was the rocks that were in that area.
But it means they grubbed it.
Yes, I'm admitting, I'm not saying that they didn't do
Okay,
that.
I
didn't
just
say they
want to
didn't
make
do
sure that we're on the
yes.
same page,
Oh,
that's all.
100%.
Because reason I was trying to get up Google Earth and the historical imagery is that was all done within the last 2 years.
Oh, yes, they admitted doing the yard part. To me,
I thought
at
they
least.
only said they did topsoil.
Yeah, you see, that I think we got different stories, and that's why I'm
So
trying
they
to
said they
send
removed the
maybe the
rocks and put
husband was
topsoil
more-
over.
I don't know, because
said
this was all treed. This whole thing was completely treed in
Not-
the
not-
Google Earth, all the way to here.
Even, but if you look at the black line, which was the existing,
Black line, all right.
the
This
black
line.
the black tree line, was the old tree line on the old map,
Here?
is what my understanding is.
This?
No,
No.
send it back to
In
me.
the purple.
That's fine.
In the
All right, so
purple,
this-
the black
this
tree line is
black-
the old tree line, the original tree line from the
Oh,
property.
I'm sorry, yes, okay.
So that's, when the site was developed, that's where the tree line stopped,
That's
so it was
the
good.
black line's off the 84, 85 topo map.
It might have been 20 feet they cleared, and I think the drawing does a good job of showing where they cleared.
I want to see if there's any pictures here. Not remembering.
But anyway, my recommendation is that we have them put up markers, permit the shed, and that's pretty much what my recommendation was gonna be.
Well, I need to see the picture again.
See, yeah, where that brown spot is where it was cleared.
So what process do you want? Do you want them coming back with a submission to you for remediation and an application? Or do you want them to do something with an agent approval? You know, that's what we're trying to do.
I want an agent approval, but again,
It
whatever.
seems like
the
it
commission-
can be agent approval.
It seems like what?
Like, I think an agent approval should work.
With some posts as guidance, you know, or, sorry, signs that those are wetlands.
Well, one of the other things that I wanted to bring up
Mhm.
is that the river, this is not just a little brook that
No, it's a
goes,
good
this is
size,
a
good size
significant
water
river.
body.
And, I'm not able to tell,
Is that really a dirt road back then?
Yeah.
yes,
Mountain
it
side.
really is. That was the one we parked on, so
Right,
that we didn't
that,
get
that's,
creamed.
that's a good,
It's
si-
a-
that's
It's not a
paved
long
now.
road, though, it's a short
It's short, it loops
section.
back to.
Oh, that's right,
to
Megan lives
Fresh
over there, she
Meadow.
would know.
Right, but it's paved now, right?
No.
No? Mm-mm.
Hmm, I didn't
It wasn't
go-
this morning.
I didn't
unless
go
it
up far
was-
enough. I parked on the little side street, so I went up
Oh, okay.
Pine tree.
the pine tree.
Is
right.
there, you know what, we didn't look back enough
You live
far
out in Mountain
toward the,
Country.
toward the
know.
river.
I didn't even know this.
Was
part
there
of town existed.
significant buffer
I
between
didn't
the
know it was in
yard and
town,
the
I thought it was in
river?
Easton. What'd you say,
Say
Melissa?
that
I'm sorry.
I was wondering if there was enough buffer between the yard and the river.
So there, yeah, you're right, there was like 15 feet of tall grass, if you will. I mean, Scott, do you think it's out of the realm of agent approval to have them plant some buffer plants along that?
Well, an agent approval is supposed to be when there isn't direct activity.
Yep.
And when you get into direct activity, then you get into, you know,
It's not, I mean, it's not direct
something the
wetland.
commission should be resolving, not me. If you have clear direction, like you want markers to be put here, plantings to be, you know, here's where the limit of everything should be, and then the stuff beyond that just stays the way it is and doesn't get maintained anymore, yeah, agent approval. But if you look at this and you say, look, there's a disturbed area, we're not even sure how close it is to the brook, we're not sure what we
I don't-
want planted there or not planted there.
I don't think that, to be clear, I don't think the disturbed area is anywhere near the brook.
I don't either.
That,
No,
it's-
but I think if you look at this really carefully, the green squiggle line,
Yeah,
which shows the,
that's current tree cover,
that's current tree cover.
yes, and the black one is the 84 tree cover.
That's not what they have in their yard now, Mike. That current, I don't think.
They had a big
Didn't
tree
look
right
like
where it
that.
was. I mean, it was,
A big tree, but I mean, there was a lot more lawn there than it appears by this. I don't know, maybe my judgment, I wish I had some way of knowing exactly where the
Well,
wetland is,
the-
you know?
The disturbance here is very close to the river.
yeah, but I think that part of it, I think is just how the maps were drawn. I don't really think that disturbance is there. I think all the disturbance is in that bigger part of the black and green line. Because that, I mean, even when you look at your pictures, that's where all the dirt is.
Right.
Well, the guys developed this by looking at the aerial and the field visual as well, so.
No, and I
I
understand
mean, one
that,
of
but
the
trees
things we-
die and, you know,
One of the
move
things we
around.
don't know is exactly where is this stuff?
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I mean, in walking, you know, when we were on those grassy areas, were we walking on wetland that was filled by a couple of feet, or was it just, the trees were removed? I don't know, I don't know, I hate to make a big issue out of it.
I think in the past, there's been a lot of filling in that area.
You think so too?
Yeah, but like-
Around that left side and behind the shed, that was done by the previous homeowner. Because she claimed all they did was take some rocks that were
That's what
exposed.
she claimed, but that's not what the picture showed on Google. That's why I was so perplexed about the
But they've
whole
only
thing.
owned the
They've
property
only
for
owned it
2
for like,
years.
yeah.
So she said 3.
Well, either way, the last Google Maps were what, 13?
No, the 16, 16, 15, 14, and 12, I think I looked at.
So we think that they did all the clearing?
No,
I don't think
know.
I
so.
think they just maybe took some exposed
I
rocks
mean,
out
if
of
you
the
look,
ground. from
go back to the
Sounds
picture,
good.
Scott.
And again, I want to remind you that it doesn't matter whether they did it or the people before them. If
No,
it
but we're trying to get a
happened
sense how long it's.
If
been
it happened
happening.
after
Yeah.
88, then it's a regulated activity.
Right, I know, but
I know.
Go down a little more.
that's why I was making more of an issue of that wetland markers with Larry.
Go
was
go to
before.
the pictures that Conrad or David took.
Wait, we'll back up. Now, is the grass area that we
15.
saw there today, is that the same as that picture?
Go down a little
You
bit more,
move up.
Scott. Right
Yeah,
here.
there you go.
So I mean, there's shrubs on the side of the deck that are not there anymore. Other than that, I think actually there's
Isn't
probably
that
more
whole
tree cover.
treed area that comes up to the white shed part, that's not there?
No.
As I'm saying, that's not there,
That's not there, but that,
but that could be one tree.
no.
Yes. Look at the tree in the front of the property, the round globe. That's one tree.
Yeah, but I'm talking about an area the size of the house. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Look at the very nicely manicured tree in the front of that, along Hattertown.
Yeah, I see that.
Oh,
That's one
That
tree.
That's one tree, yes.
But that's very similar size to what's next to the shed, or next to the deck
Yeah, but
that's
I'm
gone.
talking about that entire area that goes 3/4 of the way down the picture. That's not there
But
anymore.
I
That's-
also think
There's a
that-
thin strips of Phragmites and the rest of it's grass.
right, but I don't think south of that, like south of that little bush area, I don't think that's trees. I think that's.
You think that's the grass area I'm
I,
talking about?
well, no, I think, so, can you pass me the mouse for a second?
Oh,
Oh, boy. Oh, now we've lost the whole screen. I think this is trees, and that might have been a tree that fell. This is obviously trees that aren't, that tree's probably not there anymore. That's probably the one he cut down, it's over here now. This, I don't think is trees. I think that's just,
It could be shadow there.
Yeah.
this is all just shrubs of some sort. I mean, yes, it's not lawn kind of goes along here. But
it's not
this
casting much
is
of a
not,
shadow.
this is not a tree, it doesn't have a shadow. This is all just dirt, rocks, and shrubs. So I think actually it looks a lot better with the Phragmite, and that, not looks that matter, but, and then obviously,
Actually, go back to that.
Mhm.
There is a, see that right there?
yeah, what is that?
It's a shadow, that's the trunk, and here's the shadow of the tree, that's a tree. There's the shadow, see the shadow?
There was one big tree left there
That's a
and
tall
everything
tree
around
right
it was
here.
grass.
That's still there.
This
They-
clump right
they-
here is a tall tree without an understory.
Right, they made all of this lawn.
Yeah.
Under this, because this tree is there, it's in the middle of the yard,
Yeah.
but this is all grass now. Right here, but I don't think that was, other than this tree, I don't think there was trees here. So anyway, back to
Okay.
here for a second. So
All
if we
right.
look, hold on, if we look, because this is a good picture, this one. Rotate clockwise. So this makes, so this is that giant tree, right? And they grubbed, or they might have gone down a foot and put topsoil here. It doesn't look like anything over here was touched, do you know what I mean? That there's no dirt over here.
That's right next to the house.
No, the house is on the other side. House is right here.
Oh, I'm thinking of.
This is the shed.
direction. Okay.
So the driveway, so they did this, there's no dirt over here at all. So they just touched over here. They were pretty far away from the wetlands with what they touched. Not that it's outside of a regulated area, just they're pretty far outside.
Right.
So yeah, they touched over here. No, sorry. Yes, they touched here. This is pretty untouched. There's the water body. This all just looks like dead understory because it's obviously fall or winter in this picture.
All right, what do you guys want?
So I'm still thinking, I mean,
I think
agent,
you should meet with the property owner and come up with a plan and then bring it to us.
So in other words, we're asking for an application.
Well, no,
Because
just,
we
just
can't
some
leave that
sort
on
of a
Scott's
sketch,
shoulders.
some
That's-
sort of a sketch
We need to tell them what.
that you think would work, and then bring it to us and we'll.
And one thing I could try to stress here is that if they're going to come back before you, it should be an application submission.
right, we've gotten in
It's
trouble with that in
not
the
a-
past.
You know, it's,
It's not up to Scott, you see, that, it's up to the
No, I
application.
understand that, but I mean, we gotta have something, unless you wanna
Yeah.
say, get a surveyor, get a link, get
We
a
want markers?
soil scientist, get an engineer.
for remediation.
It would be good to have the whole border where they can't go and do any work marked.
Here,
Yeah, but it's still like 365.
We're blind, you know, we walk in there, we can just estimate what we think they did.
Yeah.
And
so I mean,
So you,
markers, shed permit is what I am still thinking. I mean, we could ask them to plant a row of trees, or not trees, but, you know, wetlands kind of border plants. here, just to keep them out of this area, but I don't think they were touching this area. I think that was always lawn. Here wasn't.
Right, you guys keep,
Yeah, we're
No, no,
busy
no, no, no,
deadlines.
no, no, no.
I have to take a break.
Oh, come on.
That's all right, we can still talk about it. We can
I
still,
almost
no.
feel he's gotta stop.
We're done
I
talking.
almost, we just
But
finished.
we're not having a break on our, we
Let's
can
keep moving, let's
continue.
move on.
So do we, what, do you wanna have,
Keep talking.
But if we just have, if we have them do the shed and the markers
We're
and
gonna do
even
marker.
plant,
We're not.
even if we had them do that, that can still all be.
or how
Agent
about
approval.
a line of, trees along the,
You have to define, yeah,
pardon
definitely,
me, along the river?
yeah, definitely have to find what trees are.
Thank you.
Pines,
Uh,
red
not
maples.
pines.
Well, what, spruce?
Spruce, yes, spruce or,
So like 3 or 4 spruces along this,
well, like they did in the front.
yeah, like
They
they over
did those
here.
Yeah.
nice, they did very nice there, if they did that along the river,
Yeah.
that would provide a little bit more protection for those wetlands.
Okay, so,
They did some nice wetland plantings, they showed us that there was some red twig dogwood and some winterberry, did you say they were, Ross? That looked very nice, if they did those
Yeah, they did,
also
didn't they?
along the
I remember that.
lower section,
So-
along the wetlands where it
So
looked like
maybe,
it might have been filled in,
you know,
same thing.
4 spruces with some, red, what are the?
I'm talking in the other area,
Which
I
area?
don't have mouse or pointer.
Over here?
Pointer?
Just bring it in. I think you pressed.
Just don't, watch out.
Haha, there we go. All right, so the spruces could go along here, and this is the area that looked like it was more grass than anything.
Yeah,
Right.
it's grass now, yeah.
So I think the wetland plants are up here.
It's the big tree.
Ross, do you agree? Megan? Is that where we saw
And they're
those
back-
red
There were
twigs?
some back here
Was they-
too.
Yes.
Did they plant them there too?
Yeah, there were some back here, because I didn't walk up
Well, they
here.
didn't
I
plant
walked here.
those, they just, didn't-
It might have been
that was the
already
area
there.
that they said
Yeah.
they just let it grow.
But no, I think he had a couple that were,
Because
some, a
this
couple of
right
them looked
now is
very
all
twiggly.
Phragmites, which is gonna take over the whole Blinken yard.
And they
So
had
if they,
some of that knotweed in there too.
yes, that's true, we did. Yeah, they had some significant, problems with knotweed, which is not a good invasive to have in your wetland, because it can take over, so anything they do can be moot. So,
But-
perhaps we need to ask them to come in with an application, because they need to just take care of that knotweed. And we can't put that on Scott, you see, that's the
No,
problem.
I
It's not-
agree with that, I
it's
just,
not
I,
Scott's problem.
I think this is making a mountain out of a molehill.
I agree.
I think I think the spruce trees make sense, I think the markers along here make sense, keep them out of this area, but, I mean, again, this is,
Well,
yeah,
I'd
they
like to
didn't
see
do
the
it right.
knotweed removed from this area of the wetland. It was definitely there, it was predominant, it was gonna take over very shortly. And if you don't know what knotweed,
No,
you
I-
need to learn about it.
I understand that.
It's one of the nastiest ones I've ever seen.
Is the knotweed thriving there because they cleared that area? Is that?
It could-
No.
Very
Could've
possibly.
been
But the
brought in
clearing's
with the
over here.
soil.
I don't think they cleared
I don't
that
think they
area.
cleared it, but just by walking it, you can take seeds in on your boots and stuff like that.
There was piles of logs, they've been in here.
Yeah, well, they
It's just
cut it on
not-
stuff
it's
from the
not-
storm and stuff,
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
That makes sense.
Who wants a lean-to tree or something? I get,
I
when we
mean,
start
I don't mind
removing-
an agent approval, but I don't know how to do,
Right, I
the
don't know how to
knotweed
do
removal.
evasive removal with an agent approval, I don't think that's
So
fair,
I
because it
don't
needs a
know.
monitoring plan and all that stuff.
I don't think we're underplaying the importance of those particular invasives. I mean, Phragmites are bad enough, but knotweed's worse.
Yeah, I mean, and but if I thought they were new to the area because of it, I would say, yes, 100%, we gotta get rid of them, but I think those have been there.
Right, is that,
They don't, it
that's
doesn't
not a
take long
result,
for them to establish like
But
that.
I'm
They
saying
could
it's
be
not a
2
result
years
of them
old.
doing
it's not a
it.
result of
We
the
don't know that.
violation,
We
is
don't
it?
know that.
I know that, but that's, I mean, all of this is conjecture.
Yes,
If there's ever a time to
now's the time.
ask
in
them
other
to get
words.
rid of it, is.
Yeah. I would love to have us have a little seminar, one of those 1-hour seminars on invasive weeds. So we would understand more of what it is that we're fighting and why it's important.
I'm not
We're not
trying to
disagreeing with the
underplay the importance of
importance.
it. I'm trying to say that the work was over here, the knotweed over here doesn't make a lot of sense to me, being that we have to remove it for something that might have been there for 20 years.
And that we didn't violate them for that. That's not what the violation was about.
Violation's all here.
Well, the fact that there's disturbance where the knotweed is gives it legitimacy. Judging by this sketch.
I saw knotweed up here. Where did you see the knotweed?
It was pretty much
There was
where
a
you are
patch,
and
yeah.
back,
Okay,
toward the back.
because I didn't see any
It
real
wasn't in the
disturbance back
lawn.
here.
It wasn't in the lawn, it was in the wetland.
Right, no, I understand that. I'm just saying, I didn't see any disturbance back here other than somebody cutting down a tree.
Well, that's all it takes.
Yes, but I don't want to get into the game of every time somebody cuts down a tree, we have to get a violation.
And
We're gonna end up
didn't
with
that
1,000 violations.
tree-
Yeah, and there were root balls uprooted in 3 or 4 places on here, so, I mean, they went to chop off probably a lean-to. Tree that was leaning on another tree.
Possibly, they still have one of those too.
They did still have one, yes. I'm sure after getting the violation, he probably stopped cutting down lean-tos. And I did warn them, I said, you know, technically, if you do cutting down trees in this area, you need to get a permit to do it. It's regulated area.
What we're,
Where we're at right now is, there's definitely 4 to 5 spruces along this to create a buffer. There's signs, shed permit. The question is, if we have to have them remediate knotweed in this area, we don't feel that that could be an agent approval. That needs, because it's gonna be direct work in the wetlands.
Yeah, usually when there's disturbance directly in a wetland, that's when I kind of leave the agent approval thing.
Yes.
People
Right.
do stuff in
We're all in
the
agreement
upland
on
review
that.
areas.
Yes.
I could usually work it out with them. But if people have done something in a wetland, then I usually think that they need to
But when you
bring a
say,
plan to you.
when you say do something, are you saying construct something? Are you saying cut down a tree?
Cut
Are you-
down trees, clear, grub,
But yeah, that's,
grade,
there's a
you
big
know,
difference between a cut down a tree and clear.
Well, yeah, I mean, the question you should ask yourself is that purple area in the wetlands, is that a regulated activity, what they did? If they came in and it was undisturbed and they proposed what they've done there, would it be a regulated activity?
Yeah, I mean,
Problem is, we don't know what they did,
I
but
mean, yeah, there was a tree there, I know that, because there's a pile of logs there. I'm not doubting that, I'm
Yeah,
just
there's
saying.
I think, yeah, there's a couple of trees, I think, that came down, one way or the other, whether
Right.
by storm or by people. The question right now is the invasive. There's a substantial stand of Japanese knotweed, which if left unchecked, will take over that wetland in a
Because it's
matter
been
of years.
disturbed.
Yes,
Okay.
so
Well-
that's what, where we're hashing it out.
But, and I think what Scott just said was important, right? So the wetland itself hasn't been disturbed. So, I mean, I understand that knotweed will take over when an area's been cleared and grubbed or something like that. But does it take over when there's a very substantial what's the word?
There isn't a substantial canopy there anymore.
There's not a
because-
substantial canopy there,
Because
but
it's been
there's-
taken down. One way or the other, whether nature did it or people did it, the canopy is gone. And that's why the knotweed is there in the first place, or that's why it's established so well that it's in the first place, and it will continue to establish even more. So all I'm asking is, I mean, they're not that bad right now. It wouldn't take that much work to get them down. You cut them, you bag them, you cart them, make sure they go in the garbage, and you paint the stumps with Roundup. I mean, it's not,
I know, I understand the process is bad, but I 100% agree with Scott that that's not an agent approval. And to have them go through a whole application for 5 or 6 knotweed plants seems like a lot of work.
I agree. Just seems like unnecessary. And I guess if,
Well, it's their
If it-
property, and I'm sure they don't want the stuff growing. Can you just recommend them? We think you maybe should consider getting rid of the knotweed, and this is how we would go about it.
But yeah, I don't want to tell them, go do some work here. Don't do work
yeah,
here,
the
but go
problem
do that
is
work
that-
over there.
That's the problem. We're recommending that they go into the wetland and do it.
Yeah,
So
tell you,
it's
stay out of the
kinda
wetland,
hard.
but,
But you can take that.
I mean, there's nothing, technically, I mean, according to my reading of the regulations, there's nothing stopping somebody from a passive use of their wetlands. They could walk back in the wetlands if they wanted to.
Yes.
And to your moot point, Yeah, they can carry evasives anytime they walk back there, and there's nothing stopping them from walking back there.
And they could rip them out, no one's gonna say anything.
Well, it sounds like the neighbors,
Yeah, someone's.
it sounds like the neighbors are watching them very carefully, so they're very well-minded.
Is that how this came up, the neighbor
That's
complaint?
what my understanding is, released from the violation file.
So what are we gonna do?
I still think 5 spruces, signs, and and the shed permit, but
I agree.
Did you make a motion for that, for agent approval? Where are we?
agent approval with those things, yes, those 3 things.
Has there been a motion?
I can't make a
Do
motion.
we need one?
Yes.
Okay, I make that motion.
Then I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Jim and Pete?
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion? No, calling for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Sure. Any
For what it's
abstentions?
worth.
No, that's fine. We don't have to agree on everything.
That's right.
Any abstentions? Nope, so the motion is what, 5-1?
Yes.
0. Okay, thank you all. That was a good discussion.
Yep.
All right, next item is there any correspondence?
No.
Actually, there was
No.
correspondence. Calm down over there. What's there, a ball game out there?
1 foot out the door.
Just real simple.
Oh, you
Don,
shouldn't
you
toy
can
with
send
me
that,
like that.
correspondence that came from,
He just know just how to like wait that perfect amount of time.
Conservation Service.
Oh,
We'll send it for the next
Next
meeting.
meeting.
Conservation Service,
No,
they're
it's
looking for their
bedtime.
annual, which we don't have in our budget because they cut it.
Yeah.
So if you want that, you need to
have a bake sale.
show up and request it
There you go.
and participate with the budget process.
Quite literally.
Is there money in the budget to go to Kakiewicz?
I believe so.
Kakiewicz is on November 12th. If anybody wants to go, it's a Saturday. I'm planning on going. If you sign up before
Where is it this year?
Halloween, where is it? It's in Rocky Hill. Get the hell out of here.
Most of the people in the state are in Fairfield
I
County.
know,
Come
and
on
they
down.
do it all, they do it all over there. It's crazy, I don't like it. If you sign up before Halloween, it's cheaper than it is if you sign up afterwards.
And we
Like
had that
10,
letter
15
a couple
bucks.
weeks ago, right?
Hmm?
We had the information on that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah, if
Okay.
anybody still has it. It's also available online.
Did we get anything from Deep about their
Can't
yearly, that was state, or
That's what
what's
I
it
said.
called, step 2 or whatever?
Exactly.
Segment two.
Segment 2?
Segment two.
On the,
Oh, so
Did we get anything on that?
no.
Would your office mind reaching out to Deep and just asking them if that's happening this year? Or do we already miss it?
Okay.
Possible.
It's usually in November. No,
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming close. right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
A motion to adjourn? I'll entertain a motion.
I make that motion.
Second.
Second by James. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
9:32.
None, any abstentions? No.
Guys, I have more.
9:32.
Magic.
We're not gonna do that.